all locked in now.
Your home for the best sports radio in Utah is right here on the KSL Sports Zone. It's time to kick off your afternoon drive with Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
Allow me to introduce the best of the best.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake Scott, Ben Anderson. However you may be listening, we appreciate you. Whether you're streaming over the air, you're watching at kslsports.com or on the YouTube, or, of course, hello to our friends in the future who are podcasting the show. How's it going, Ben?
Doing well. How are you?
Doing fine. I'm sure you're eager to dive into last night's game.
Is anyone eager to dive into last night's game? No, it was a good game. It was a very fun game. I thought that was what I think playoff hockey is billed to be. It turns on a dime. Huge momentum swings, maybe more exaggerated than most games that we've seen, maybe any game that we've seen so far during the history of the Utah Hockey Club and now Mammoth. And you know what I guess, I didn't walk away from the game, but what I was left with the game last night is, this is part of the process, right? This is the process of building a winner, of learning what you are able to do, learning what you're not able to do, despite the fact that I think in some ways this is a pretty routine storyline. Not routine, is maybe that's not the word, but not like a totally unique storyline. We see teams come out flat, burn up all their energy coming back, and then not have it in the end. And I think that's basically what happened with the Mammoth.
I thought you'd be dooming them because they lost home ice advantage.
No, as we said yesterday, the road team actually has a winning percentage on the road this year, or in these playoff series. Just over 50%. It's basically a coin toss. But no, I think this series is quote-unquote on schedule. It's 2-2 after 4. Each team has won on each other's home ice, and now it's a best-of-3 series.
I just heard some sports bozo already out there who was saying, or online who was saying, oh, man, it's going to be so daunting now that they have to go back to Vegas. I mean, how could they It's like, I don't think it matters, honestly. I think it truly is. I kind of like this. It truly is a best 4 of 7. There are very little outside factors. It's you're going to play 7 times, and who's going to win 4.
And I think
I actually kind of like that.
I think these teams are very evenly matched. Clearly.
I was. Well, I mean, you mentioned the wild swings. I was definitely right. And if the Mammoth didn't put themselves in a 3-goal hole, they absolutely could have won that game. And the way that the Golden Knights came out, and it was an onslaught, and it was shot after shot after shot, and they just started to go down. The shorthanded goal was bananas.
Yeah.
And you knew you could only, and again, I'm going to what I know, but you knew you could only keep up with the bend but not break thing for so long. I mean, that was only, Veggie's human.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, he wasn't going to be able to drive back that onslaught forever. And that is the reason why they lost the game, was because of the first part of it. But to the team's credit, and here's certainly where I was wrong, is they 100% broke out of it.
Yeah.
And figured out a way to get onto the open ice and utilize their speed, and figured out a way to, get back in it, which was amazing and made it a super fun game to watch, only to, have it not go their way at the end. Such is the nature of the sport, it would seem. And that's why they play overtime now until it's over, which I really like, but it's because something random can happen. It could end it at any second. But they got to avoid those. I don't know when they get in some ruts where the offense just isn't flowing, and Vegas is really dominating the style. I mean, it was basically all of game 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how they fight against that. Maybe that's a lesson of the other team is good too.
I think they're young, and I don't think they know how to play a full 60 minutes. I mean, I think that's pretty transparent, and you have seen that a lot, because I thought they played okay in the first period of game 1. They had a lead after both the first and second periods and didn't know how to play in the third period. They didn't know how to play those final 20 minutes, and they adjusted and played much better in game 2, but that still required a comeback. If I remember, they were down 1-0 and then battled back and ended up winning that game on the road. And then game 3 was by far their best effort. The explosion and the energy that I think was in the home arena allowed them to kind of carry it throughout, and still wasn't perfect. They go up 4-0 and they kind of take their foot off the pedal, and that's why the stats were so lopsided in game 3. And then you saw it last night. They absolutely no-showed for the first 35 minutes of that game, it felt like. I mean, it was the first period and a half, maybe even a little bit more than that, where They were totally flat. They had no energy. They were not the aggressors. They were playing on their heels. They were letting the game happen to them. They were not having any real positive impact on the game. And then they get a huge penalty kill, which is the momentum swinger. Once they're already down 3-0, they had blown opportunities. Carcone misses a wide open net on the power play. And they rattle off 2 goals in 29 seconds, 27 seconds, whatever it was. They battle back. They get the third. Carcone gets the go-ahead goal to take a 4-3 lead. And you thought, okay, this team's in a good spot. And again, they just take their foot off the pedal. And they allow the Vegas Golden Knights to score with 10 minutes left. And then they never really got back to being the aggressor. And again, some of that is just the energy you had to use over that 18, 20-minute stretch to get back into the game and to take a lead, which was very remarkable. And a sign of progression and a sign of growth where I think in the past, Mammoth might lose that game 7-1.
I don't know why it's running together for me, but it was the go-ahead goal that was a goal that absolutely shouldn't count, that accidentally went in.
Was that the Cooley goal on the fast break? I think that tied it up.
Was that the tie? I don't know. That part of the sport is just bananas to me.
Yep.
It's wild to get used to where it's like that had no business. That's the difference in the game?
Yeah.
It's wild, but hey, the intensity is there for sure, and it's a physical matchup. The Mammoth actually ended up with more hits, right?
Yeah. The actual overall stats, again, minus turnovers, were not all of that, unfavorable. 57-41 over for the Mammoth over the Golden Knights when it comes to hits, like you said. Face-offs continue to be very even in this series, which looked like it was going to lean heavily towards Vegas, 41-42 in this series, or in Game 4. Shorthanded goals, obviously, that was one that got away from them with a couple of seconds left on the power play, and that was, that's where the Mammoth had really struggled. And then it goes to giveaways, which did even up towards the end, but was pretty lopsided to the first, again, 30 minutes of the game. It ended up 22-19, but the Mammoth's giveaways have been very, very punitive. It has really hurt them, including that one where Veggie held onto the puck way too long before he cleared it, and then it ended up in the shorthanded goal for Vegas.
It was a great goal too.
No, amazing goal.
Shout out to that guy,
skill.
but it was kind of an own goal in a way, certainly, and mistakes. Young teams are more prone to mistakes. I'm sure that translates to hockey as well. But there's no reason to think that they couldn't win game 5 down in Vegas.
Yeah, this might go 6 and they win 5 and 6 and they come back here and you say, oh yeah, well you saw it during these stretches. There were stretches in last night's game, all of Game 4, where I think the Mammoth have clearly been dominant. They've been by far the better team. And then there's the last 30 minutes of this game, including all of overtime, it felt like, and the last 10 minutes of regulation, that was all Vegas, and the first 20 minutes of the game. So it really is pretty evenly matched. This is where I do think you are starting to see the veterans step up. The older players are stepping up. I thought Utah's first line was much better last night. Obviously, Keller broke his scoring drought by getting on the board on that very amazing fast break play where he grabs the puck out of the air off of the broken stick and just puts it in. And like you said, it's fluky. It goes between the legs of the goalie and just kind of slips in. But that was really impressive. And now the younger players are struggling. The younger players who have not been here as much and maybe are, I don't want to say panicking, but are not quite as prepped to make some of these adjustments as the older players who kind of know what to go to next and what your second, third, and maybe fourth options are. Logan Cooley, Dylan Gunther, he did have an assist last night. But Kyler Yamamoto, we have not seen the point production from them that we saw over these first 3 games, and that was a big difference. And credit John Tortorella in Vegas, who made the adjustments to his top line and his second line to try and balance it out a little bit more, moving Marner down to the second line, and it really worked. I mean, he really pushed all the right buttons. It felt like because Dorofeyev had the 2 goals, or had the goal in the first period, I should say. Marner ended up breaking his point streak as well with the assist. So that's the counter. That's the adjustment that you make, and now if you're a Utah fan, you hope that the Mammoth go back and Bear knows what buttons to push for your team.
Well, that's key to get everybody playing well, I suppose, at the same time, which has got to be more difficult than hockey, considering the teams are so big. You've got so many guys playing and so many moving parts, and it matters who the other team is playing too. I mean, Vegas. The way Vegas started, they scored 90 seconds, and the way they started, I mean It was with purpose. How about that?
Yeah, that's a good explanation. It's a good description.
It was with purpose. So give them credit because the Mammoth had to adjust to it, and eventually it was that early onslaught that carried the day.
And again, it was some young mistakes Cooley goes and chases a puck where you already have two defenders behind the ice. And I'm not saying this is all on Cooley. I'm not fully familiar with the positioning of defenses in hockey quite yet. But, you end up with three people behind the net and a very odd number in front of the net. And you end up with a wide open goal because there's nobody there to block out. I think it was Dorofeyev who scored on that first goal, if I remember correctly. And that's a young mistake. And then they let it compile. They don't find a way to clear the puck, and it ends up with a turnover, and they end up building that 3-0 lead. And then, the Mammoth can bring it back and can score quickly, but they did not generate a lot of space, almost no odd man rushes in this game other than Cooley's goal. The things that I thought really worked well for them, especially in Game 2 and Game 3, were almost entirely absent, I thought, in Game 4.
I did feel for Michael Carcone, and good for him for making up for it a little bit later on in the game, but missing the empty net. What is the most humiliating is so strong, but what is the most embarrassing? That's better.
Yeah.
Embarrassing. Is it a missed layup? Is it a missed open net?
I think it's a drop.
Is it a drop in football or a drop in baseball, which is even worse?
That is bad. Football, I'm going to say it's a drop because to drop a ball, that means somebody else has done their job to deliver you a pass. I'm not saying, tough catch, didn't pick it up in the end zone, but the wide open,
in the basket.
Oh man, he's beat him. Yeah, it's right in the breadbasket and it slips through your fingers and you think, scoring chances are so rare and the quarterback has put an absolute dime out there for me and I can't grab it. That's got to be the most humiliating.
How about this one? And this one happened to me in my youth. And I
talk about shirt through the fly?
No, but that is a funny story. God, that was bad. But that's not like a.
No, it's a jersey malfunction.
No, that's me didn't zip up my fly. Then we have a red jersey that
pulled through it. Interesting. Interesting.
No, that's not what I was thinking about. Thank you for bringing up that humiliating memory. Striking out looking to end the game.
The worst. Yeah.
To end the game. Not just striking out looking, but striking out looking to end the game. And then your coach is going like this.
Yeah.
Has the arms up, and you have to look at it and be like, I thought it was a ball.
Yeah, and not even when they're painting the corners, but just right down the middle.
Don't even get it off your shoulder. Everybody's looking at you like,
that was your effort?
Good effort.
That was the try?
Really poured it on there. Yeah, I've struck out looking to lose the game.
I did. Because I never played high-level sports, but in my Little League days, I accidentally scored on the wrong basket. That was humiliating.
I think that's happened to a lot of people.
Of course, absolutely.
Yeah. You get
combobulated
or whatever.
Such a freaking bozo.
Convinced you just grabbed an offensive
rebound. It was off
rebound.
of a free throw.
Yeah,
that's the thing. I was lined up on a free throw, and I just thought, I wasn't paying attention. Their team missed it. I picked it up and put it right back in. Dang. The final scores of those games were like 14-12.
Missing a layup is pretty brutal.
Missed dunk, which I've never experienced because I never dunked, was I get that at the NBA level. That's probably difficult.
But wide open breakaway, anything missing that is pretty rough.
Brutal.
Is there any ones we're missing? I know we're not thinking of all the sports.
Oh, I mean, there are empty netters in soccer as well. There are some very clear. I mean, that net is. The goal is so huge when you have the easy breakaway and you boot it over the top. Missed penalty kick. That's got to feel like a punch to the stomach.
At least there's a keeper there or a goalie. At least there's something like that.
Was it in the World Cup that Landon Donovan just airmailed his? Wasn't a PK, but they went down to a shootout. He just missed it by 15 feet over the crossbar.
Okay, I think I've got the answer. Forgetting the rules.
Yeah, well,
forgetting the rules, I'm thinking Chris Webber forgetting the rules.
Yes, the timeout.
The timeout,
that's truly haunted him for the rest of his life.
Or who was the Cav? Wasn't it J.R. Smith? You could see the meme of LeBron
shoot the ball.
Yeah. What about dropping the ball before the end zone?
Oh, that's good. Or what's his name running out of Dan
Orlovsky?
Yeah, running out
of the end zone. Just keep going back, Dan.
See, yeah, exactly.
Drop back further.
Dropping the ball is pretty brutal. Kalen Clay was on the not top 10 for
ever
months.
Yeah, I mean, anytime it happens, people bring that back up because it was so critical because it led to a touchdown the other direction. neither here nor there. I don't think that's necessarily what happened last night. I don't think the Mammoth have anything to be embarrassed about losing that game.
That's not why I brought it up. I brought it up the Carcone open net.
Yeah, and I'm sure he just felt miserable. And then, got it back.
Especially in the playoffs. And then to get it back, a little redemption for him. Good for him. Because that's what I'm saying. I did feel for him. We've all, anybody who's played sports, right, has been there in the embarrassing moments. The moments where it's like, okay, the game's on the line and it's Ben's time to shine, and you can't kick snap the red box or whatever.
Correct. I don't. How'd you know? How'd you know that skateboarding lingo? Kick snapping the red box.
Well, there's probably a rail in there somewhere. I don't know. You could relate.
Yeah, hip grind the apple pipe.
Apple pipe.
Yeah, that's a different thing altogether. I wasn't into that, but some of the other skateboarders were, not me, pal. So looking at what happened last night with the Mammoth, I think you hold your head up high. It was frustrating. That's a brutal loss. I mean, that's really difficult. That's difficult to walk away knowing, especially on that absolute final possession. Cooley had a chance to put that in the net. Cooley had a chance to win that, and they didn't find a way to get it done. And when that happens and it goes the other way and then Vegas is able to set it up, that hurts. That's painful. And not finding a way to close out the game with a lead with 10 minutes at home. Again, all learning experiences. This is part of the process. I don't think you can expect the Mammoth to make it to the Stanley Cup Finals. I know Vegas did their first year, but I don't think that's what this team was positioned to do this year. And they're certainly not eliminated yet. They can still very well get out of this series.
See, that's the thing. We're all in a hurry to diagnose it for the Mammoth. Vegas is good, too.
Yeah, Vegas is really good.
And I'm sure after Game 3, Vegas wasn't going, well, these young and inexperienced guys need to learn how to win. I mean, they're not. Yeah. I mean, certainly that's not how athletes think.
Right.
And especially young athletes who really don't know any better. I mean, just a reminder that Vegas is huge and physical and very good and did win the Stanley Cup a couple of years ago. They are a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah. And has more proven stars on their roster.
Absolutely.
Spent way more money on their roster.
Way more money.
Yeah.
So I would argue that the Mammoth are deeper and have a couple of other things going for them. That's a little bit better. I'm a veggie believer. I think that they're pretty strong in that aspect. So it's not like the Mammoth aren't bringing anything to the table, but you weren't going to go out there and smoke the Golden Knights. I mean, I always said, Ben, or I always say, a great man always said, hey, that man was me. Gordon once did that. I love Gordon. Shout out to Gordon, who was on the station earlier today. He was on with PK this morning. But beware of the underachieving team, because at some point they might start achieving. And that plays into the coaching change narrative coming into this series, is Vegas was underperforming. They're in the worst division in the NHL by like a mile and should be running roughshod over everybody. And they did not. What did they get into the playoffs with, Ben?
93 points, 95 points. They're 3 ahead of the Mammoth. So I think they're 95 and the Mammoth are 92.
But they're not leading the league. You know what I mean?
It's not the Avalanche.
They underperformed.
Big time.
For their roster. And beware of the underperforming team, because at some point they might figure it out.
Yeah.
And at some points during the games, the Golden Knights really have figured it out.
For reference, the Mammoth have a $90 million payroll cap hit, which is bottom 10 in the NHL. Vegas has the number 1 payroll in the NBA, or in the NHL, excuse me, at $107.5 million. You're talking about a $17 million difference, which, in hockey terms, you're talking about $6 million players, where $6 million players is what Nick Schmaltz makes. He's one of the 4 or 5 best players on the team. You're talking about top 2 line players. That's the difference. You're talking about 3 of them. So, Vegas is paid to win here. This is what Vegas is designed to do. The Mammoth have not quite figured out if they're able to get out of this series, but they are giving Vegas everything they have, and that's why it's tied going back 2-2.
So remember that. I mean, as we say, learning to win, I mean, we can talk about that stuff, and there is something to it. But the Golden Knights are really good, and we're not going to be an easy out by any means. And I give the Mammoth a lot of credit for battling back. I mean, they could have just gone in the shell and say, we'll see you in Vegas in Game 5.
I thought they were.
Screw it.
That's what I was expecting.
I was expecting that too, 100%. That's not what they did. They showed a little pluck, and you got to like that about a young team that believes in itself.
But
Like that?
The loss, especially in overtime, you're talking about splitting hairs. You talk about a game that basically went 80 minutes. You are any number of small deflections that did or did not go in that could have changed the outcome of this game. So, no, this series is very, very far from decided. I personally am happy that there's only a 2-day break. They're going to be back in action on Wednesday night and then back in action again on Friday. Some of these 2-day breaks or 3-day breaks between games felt long to me. So I'm excited that we don't have to wait long for this series to continue. And we'll have another game here at Delta Center before the end of the week.
Wild.
Yeah, going quick.
By the way, tonight in the NHL, the Ducks, the Mighty Ducks, as I like to call them. Because why would you ditch the Mighty?
I'm with you.
Just because Disney sold you?
Average Ducks. Nobody likes that.
Just the Ducks is kind of lame.
Yeah, it's not the Boss Tones. It's the Mighty, Mighty Boss Tones.
The Mighty Ducks.
I think the Mighty, Mighty Boss Tones might have dropped their Mighty as well.
Just the Boss Tones?
Just the Boss Tones. What are you doing? I liked them better when they were the Mighty.
It's like John Mellencamp throwing in the Cougar and then going away from the Cougar.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing, John?
They still go by Mighty, Mighty. I made that up. But yeah, everyone liked Mighty Mouse. Nobody likes Mouse. He's Mighty.
The Mighty Ducks can finish off the Oilers tonight. That game is at 8 o'clock on TNT, True TV, or HBO Max.
Now, that would be a disappointment.
What, the Oilers?
Yeah. The Oilers have, the best player in the world. They have another MVP in Draisaitl. They have the 6th highest salary cap in the NHL. The Ducks have the 3rd lowest. That's a pretty sharp upset.
The first game on TNT, True TV, and HBO Max at 5:30 is the Bruins and the Sabres. The Sabres have a 3-1 lead in that series. I got to tell you, Ben, in our parent group, kind of like our kids are friends, and so the parents, there's one big Sabres fan, and there's one big Bruins fan.
Oh.
And there's been tension.
Vitriol.
There's been tension.
Dang.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
They're both nice guys, and they're both friends, but it's been a little weird around the neighborhood. You know what I mean? And then the ESPN2 game tonight starting at 6, the Wild and the Stars, and that's from Dallas, and that series is tied up at 2 apiece.
That's been a great series. Also went to double overtime. So Minnesota needs to go on the road and steal a game there the same way the Mammoth are going to be looking to go on the road and steal a game in Vegas.
Top 3 stories of the day at KSLSports.com is coming up next. It's the Jake and Ben Show. Oh, we should set it up. Krysten Peek, I've got to mention this. She's going to be on the show today. What time is that, Christian? Coming up at 3:05, so less than an hour from right now. So stay tuned. Krysten is going to be on with us. We'll have more coming up next. It's Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's time to break down the biggest stories of the day. This is the top 3 stories of the day on KSLSports.com. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Oh, I love Raise Your Glass by Pink. That's a great song. Why are we leading with it? Is this in top 3 stories?
It's not. Let's do it at 45.
The latest
next segment.
The latest on Diana Rossini is I didn't see it coming. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's great. It's a real supportive girlfriend.
Wait.
This is what I'll say, and I'm not going to tease it. I've never had anyone do this for me.
Not a girlfriend. She's a mistress.
Okay.
Oh, don't elevate her to girlfriend. That's not her title.
She's a mistress. Be both?
Oh.
You don't think so?
I did see a tweet that said maybe her husband was her affair.
Oh, interesting.
Like Vrabel was her main piece.
Okay.
Oh.
And her husband was just the side piece.
If you're married and you're seeing another woman, that is a mistress.
It's a mistress.
If you are single and seeing multiple women, those are multiple girlfriends.
And what's the husband or what's the man in this situation?
I don't know. Sad?
No.
Vrabel.
What's Vrabel in this situation? Because Diana Rossini was also married.
Oh,
what's the male equivalent of a mistress?
Well, there's got to be.
Yeah. We can look it up. It's just a mister?
I mean, it's not a John. That means something else.
It says there's no single, this is AI, widely accepted male equivalent to mistress, but common terms include lover, paramour, or other man.
Paramour sounds too sophisticated.
Okay. Boy toy? Manstress?
Manstress works.
Like Vrabel, noted manstress.
Yeah. I kind of like the boy toy.
Yeah, boy toy. I feel very weird saying it.
Well, it's funny because he's like big macho NFL guy.
Manstress is better.
Apparently, in military slang, a man who is having an affair with a deployed service member's wife is called a Jody. I got to be careful reading some of these things on there. I don't know what any of these mean. I apologize. I'm going to backtrack on all of this. We'll stick with Paramore.
I've never heard of
Paramore.
I've never heard of Jody.
But that is a man having an affair with a service member's wife or girlfriend. So that wouldn't apply to Vrabel on any front. Vrabel is a male, and I don't think he's a member of the military. Last I checked.
No, I think he was a football player.
But there should be a male equivalent. We got to figure this out.
I agree. Well,
It'd be
man,
a great call in
I
the
think
future.
Manstress works for our intents and purposes. Yeah, if anybody else has any suggestions, you can call in. Go to the KSLSports.com app, use the call-in feature, and leave us some sound.
He's like an assistant. He's like a coordinator. He's like a love coordinator.
He's whatever
Relationship coordinator.
He's whatever Doc Rivers was with Milwaukee
Okay.
before he was the coach.
Yeah, like a contributor or whatever.
The consultant.
Special consultant.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
On what? You don't want to know.
Time for the top 3 stories today at KSLSports.com, brought to you by J. Brooks Jewelers. Cherish your love with J. Brooks Jewelers. Explore their expertly crafted engagement rings made from the finest materials. J. Brooks Jewelers. All right, Christian, where do you want to start today?
Number 1, you can bust out the brooms, the Thunder sweep.
Okay, I did a very bad job at my job. I can tell you honestly, Jake, I don't think I watched a single second of the Thunder-Sun series.
I did not last night.
No, I didn't watch the game at all
I
last
did not
night.
last night.
I'm racking my brain trying to think of like Sunday, I think, when they played, or whatever, Saturday when they played afternoon. I know the game was on.
No, I dialed into some of it. It was not very interesting. The Suns aren't very good.
The Suns aren't very good.
Listen, I heard a national pundit talking about the Jazz saying that, and we can get, by the way, into the other playoff games, but I heard this pundit talking about the Jazz saying that the Jazz fans are crazy if they think that the Jazz are going to make the playoffs next year, that they're a play-in team basically at the best. Mm-hmm. And he's like, who are they going to replace? And it's like, who's any good? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, who aren't they going to replace? They're not going to be better than the Thunder. Sure. Probably not going to be better than the Spurs. I'll be curious to see what Denver does. I'll be curious to see what Minnesota does, I guess. But the Lakers are far from a complete team. I mean, the Rockets are a disaster.
Yeah.
Disaster.
Yep.
So to say that that's a pipe dream is crazy to me. They could be better than Phoenix today if they played their entire roster.
I'd listen. I would absolutely listen.
Phoenix isn't that great,
No,
and they were a play-in team, right? But you get my point.
They're still in the playoffs.
Still in the playoffs.
Yeah.
The Jazz could play a pickup game against Phoenix tomorrow and win easily.
Jazz could give the Thunder next season a better series than what the Suns just
I
provided.
totally agree.
And it still may end in 4 games, but none of these games were particularly competitive.
The thing is that national pundit isn't watching the Jazz. He just looks at the record. He doesn't look at why and how they're losing.
Yeah. Which, credit the Jazz, it was a lot of smoke and mirrors.
I suppose.
Now, while I did not watch the Thunder and Sun series, I did watch both the Magic Pistons game and the Nuggets Timberwolves game. So I am following the NBA. I just, with the Mammoth, I'm picking my spots a little bit more
that
wisely.
series isn't very interesting.
Yeah, it was a dog. It was an
Yeah.
absolute dog. And there were 2 other far more interesting series. And while Nuggets Timberwolves probably is most pertinent because it's the Western Conference, Magic are an 8 seed that just took a 3-1 lead over the Detroit Pistons.
I told you the Pistons suck.
And these series end up having enormous consequences on franchises.
Do you remember when people were trying to tell us, and I say tell us because neither one of us ever had this opinion, that Detroit was in the same conversation as Oklahoma City?
Yeah, that was not
Because
true.
they looked at the record and they're like, well, you got to put Detroit in the conversation, don't you? And it's like, no, because they play in the East and they have no offense. And I like defensive clubs.
Absolutely.
Like, that's my style. But they've got nothing.
Well, you and I both, saw the Jazz beat the Pistons here in Salt Lake City. The Jazz, if I remember correctly, almost beat them in Detroit before having to pull the plug earlier this year. And then at the trade deadline, we both recognized Detroit really needed another guy.
Something.
They needed another scorer, and clearly that's the case because they only managed 88 points. And credit the Magic, who are a little bit like the Vegas Golden Knights.
They're underachievers,
kind of living up to what the preseason expectations were.
I totally agree.
So they are playing well, and I do think they're going to close out this series. I just don't think the Pistons are primed to come back from down 3-1.
How many times is that now 8-1's won? If that happens. I don't know.
Let's see. The Grizzlies beat the Spurs.
The Golden State beat the Mavericks.
The Knicks beat the – who was their 8th seed? They didn't make the championship game.
The
They
finals,
didn't make the finals. And it happened one time before that. Oh, well, Miami beat Milwaukee, right, in an 8-1 the year they reached the finals as a wild card. So, or as a play-in team.
It doesn't happen very often.
4 or 5 times.
Being the point.
And credit the Magic.
It almost happened to the Jazz once against the Nug.
Yes, it did when they were doing 5-game series.
Yep.
But no, I think the Magic are to win the series, and it might be enough to save Jamal Mosley's job, which is very funny. Now, Franz Wagner is dealing with a calf injury. He's questionable for Game 5, it sounds like. We'll see if he's able to play. That will give the Pistons some opportunity going back home to get a win, but
I'm sure Mosley's going to push him.
Yeah.
Get him out there.
Get him out there. His job's on the line. Why wouldn't he?
Got to close out the series.
And then the Nuggets played very well until the fourth quarter and they were handling the Timberwolves. It was a 20-point game for most of the night, especially in the second half, and then pulled their foot off the pedal. And it ended up as a 12-point game. So that's 3-2 still in favor of Minnesota.
I defended Minnesota yesterday. And I still think that they will win this series. But listen, you cannot clown the other team for their crazy, crappy defense. I mean, overtly, Jaden McDaniels clown the other team for not playing defense. And then let the Nug run over them and shoot 57% and basically not guard anyone.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, you've lost Ant. That stinks. You lost Dante DiVincenzo, but that's not the reason why they have been a great defensive team.
Ben Spencer Jones was 7 of 9 last night.
Yeah, no, the Nuggets knew they needed a win.
Christian just said who, and I said Spencer Jones. I don't know.
He did the post game interview, and I had to look him up. I'm not kidding. I had to be like,
Jones.
I've seen him. I've seen his jersey, but I've never seen a close up of that human being. So anyways, shout out Spencer Jones.
Spencer Jones, you're killing it. 20 last night.
What games are tonight?
Here, let me bring up the schedule for tonight. Starting the 5 o'clock ESPN game, the Sixers and the Celtics. Boston up 3-1.
We'll close that out.
Yeah, that's gonna be over. The 6 o'clock game on NBC and Peacock is the Hawks and the Knicks.
Great game. Excited
tied up
for that.
at 2, and then the nightcap on the Mouse. The Blazers at the Spurs. San Antonio is leading 3-1.
Series will also come to an end. So Atlanta Knicks is the big one tonight.
Good. That one's on the old broadcast television.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch that one.
Do you have the Peacock?
I do.
Worthwhile?
I like it for this reason, and then I'm a big SNL fan, so I watch SNL Sunday or Saturday night, and I can view it that way, as opposed to watching. Though I do like KSL and everything KSL does.
Oh yeah. Hey, NBC all the way. But I have been trying to think gonna have to come down to some critical decisions to some streaming services. I'm not happy with some, and I wonder if it's worthwhile of the replacement.
You didn't ask me if I pay for Peacock.
Well, how do you do that?
It's the same way everyone has a hookup with something.
They give you
a family.
They pass them out free here?
No, I wish. No, let's say there's a family discount.
Oh, the old man.
Brother.
Oh, even better. He probably gets it for free.
Yeah, I don't think he's paying for it.
No way.
Shout out
Guy's
Joe.
like a Hollywood mogul.
Nah, I think he just got a buddy. But apparently they never use it. I've never been kicked off. So
I mean, actual NBC Comcast sent him a free subscription.
That would be amazing.
That's who. Yeah, Comcast.
Yeah.
We should get a nickname for Comcast.
I definitely subscribe to Peacock on my own. I'm kidding.
All right, what's next?
Number 2, Jake and Ben, the fans, have been asking. The Mammoth are hosting a watch party at the Delta Center tomorrow for Game 5.
Yeah, I think that's a fun opportunity to go down and watch the game. Give you a chance to join the rest of the fans and take in not critical, not a must-win, I won't say that, but a big Game 5.
Listen, if you have any opportunity to sell Mammoth fans beer, you should do it. I couldn't believe it. Been several hours before the game the other night when we were on the plaza before Game 1.
Yeah.
How much room was in the beer garden section?
Yeah.
Hours before the game. So I think it's cool. You're the Mammoths. Ryan Smith's all about building a community, and this sort of stuff does it. Go with like-minded people. Get loud. They'll if the Mammoth win, they'll show you on TV.
Some news on the Mammoth front that you saw last night, if you're paying attention. On the third line, there was a change because J.J. Peterka got benched midway through the third period and didn't play the entire overtime, if I remember correctly. Coach Bear did describe it. Cole Bagley has the tweet up on his account at Bagley KSL Sports, and he says essentially that they're going to keep the reasoning for the benching between themselves or what they said, but he said it is due to performance. Peterka not living up to expectations, which is tough. That was one of the big acquisitions for Bill Armstrong in the front office, going out and getting another scorer in Peterka. And they gave up Josh Doan, who's been great and plays for the Sabres, and the Sabres had, was it the most points in the Eastern Conference, and Doan was a big part of it. Really kind of does the grimy stuff that I think this Mammoth team could use right now, and Peterka seems to be a little bit more finesse.
Well, he was the speed. That was the whole thing, that they were trading some physicality for some speed. That was the risk of that trade.
It turns out they have plenty of speed, and they could probably use a little bit more physicality.
Yeah, right. All right, what's next?
Number 3, BYU basketball in the mix for another 5-star prospect.
Obina Ezike, I promise you I'm saying that wrong, but he has narrowed his list down to 5 teams. A 7-foot center, the number 2 overall player in the class of 2027, has Kentucky, Louisville, Arkansas, BYU, and Maryland in his top 5.
Man, you know who would know something about him? Krysten Peek.
Well, yeah, we'll have to ask him. She's probably talked to him.
Yeah, coming on the show at the top of the 3 o'clock hour. I thought you'd follow me on my tease there. Thought that was a creative way to
You're smarter than I am, so that's not surprising.
Tease that. Well, BYU is going to be in the role for all of these guys. It would, or so it would seem. Anybody, open to play in the Big 12 and live in Provo, I think the paycheck for the most part is going to be there.
Now the question is, should they be?
What do you mean?
Is this the best way to use your assets? If you have finite assets, maybe you don't. Maybe BYU doesn't feel like they're operating with limited money, and as long as they can just get better and better players, there are enough people who will cut them a check to make sure that they land at BYU.
Are you talking in this circumstance or overall?
I think specifically in the circumstance of young player, freshman coming in, and that being a big part of your team building.
In this
strategy.
case, they did not have a 7-footer last year.
That's true.
And that was really problematic. So I would say, however you're going to solve that problem on a yearly basis, you should go for it. But I think that's the secret with BYU. They have to find the recipe. BYU guys and top-end guys. Where's the right balance? And they didn't have it last year. They were short on BYU guys last year.
Yeah. And they did have this is where you might be once bitten, twice shy, as Xavier Staten was a 4-star 7-footer from Vegas who was just not even close to ready. And that was his problem. And they paid him $1 million plus or whatever it was to come in.
You run that risk.
And he didn't play. He couldn't play. He wasn't good enough.
That's why this system is so stupid.
Now, Xavier Staten is not the number 2 overall recruit from his class. And this Obina Ezike Jr. is top 2 in his class. So that's going to be a different caliber of player.
It would seem so.
Yeah.
All right, stay tuned. Jake and Ben will have more coming up next. I mean, a new chapter in the Rossini saga.
Turn the page, baby.
This one entertaining. Stay tuned. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson. Now, every day from 2 to 6 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. You know what my 4-year-old calls this song?
Huh.
The Cheers song.
Why is that? Because it's about raising your
Raise
glass?
your glass?
Cheersing.
She calls it the Cheers song.
Okay. Not everybody knows your name.
No. But you're giving cheers or whatever.
Okay.
One such song that is relevant today, Ben, there's been a new development in the Diana Rossini, Mike Vrabel story, which just continues to dominate. 2 weeks now? Longer?
At least, yeah. At least.
Because it's going back to when we were on the old time slot.
Right.
So a couple weeks now. The latest, though, Ben, and Diana Rossini has a Spotify account. Uh-huh. And she ended up sharing a playlist with Mike Vrabel right after he lost his 4th consecutive game with the Titans.
In the year of 2022.
In 2022. And the playlist is called Turn the Page.
Turnin' the page. No G. Turnin' the page.
Turnin' the page. Do we want to go through the playlist? I've got my favorite part of the development today.
Yeah, do you want to read the songs? Do you want me to read them?
Go ahead.
Cuff It by Beyonce. Big Energy by Lotto. I apologize. Some of these people, I don't know who they are. I don't know. I do know who Beyonce is. Break My Soul. House Party by Sam Hunt. I probably should have brought my glasses. My Love by Route 94. Pump It Louder by Tiesto and Black Eyed Peas. Raise Your Glass by Pink. We just heard that. Bass Down Low
And
by...
where is his glasses? He can't see without his glasses.
Thank you. Bass Down Low by Dev. Can't Stop by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Last Resort by Papa Roach. I've got a Papa Roach story I can tell you in a minute. Welcome to the Jungle, Guns N' Roses, a classic. Photograph by Def Leppard. I prefer the Nickelback song. God of Thunder by Kiss. Dance the Night Away by Van Halen. And Renegade by Styx.
Photograph by Def Leppard's good.
All right. Better than the Nickelback
Way.
version? Okay.
I'm not.
Anyone else?
I can't recall the Nickelback version.
Yes,
at this
you
point.
do. Look at that photograph. Every time I do, it makes me laugh.
Oh yeah,
It's like
I
the
don't, I
bad
don't,
Nickelback song.
Well, Def Leppard's Photograph is way
good.
better. I haven't heard most of this stuff. Raise Your Glass, that's a jam I like. Welcome to the Jungle. Last Resort might be the worst song ever written. I do like Photograph. I pretty much don't like anything by Kiss.
How do you feel about Styx?
Not a big Styx fan.
Okay.
Even though it's kind of in my wheelhouse, it's. I've never really been a
They're
Styx
a little
guy.
more ballady and a little less rocky than what you like.
I don't even know what Lotto is.
Yeah, same. That's our fault. That's not Diana Rossini's fault. Diana Rossini is about 6 months older, I think, than you are.
No, she's older than that, isn't she?
She's born in 1980.
Oh, okay.
Are you 81?
81.
Okay. So you're technically a millennial, and she's technically Gen X, but you guys are right on that edge.
Right on the border.
It is funny how many of these do kind of seem to cross your age range, though you don't quite have maybe the Beyonce, Route 94, or Dev, Lotto sampling that she has.
Got to tell you, never got into the Black Eyed Peas.
I'm with you.
I do like the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I can't picture Can't Stop at the moment.
Okay. I think. But I mean, that's how every single Red Hot Chili Pepper song sounds.
I know what you're talking about now. That makes sense.
Can't Stop the rhythm,
Yeah.
defines, or whatever.
I got
I
you.
don't even know the
Yeah, I
lyrics.
know what it
Anyways,
is now.
A theme? Any theme here? Cuff It, Big Energy, Break My Soul, House Party, My Love, Pump It Louder, Raise Your Glass, Bass Down Low, Can't Stop, Last
Is
Resort.
it get fired up because you're about to get canned kind of thing?
You're on your way out.
You're on your way out, turning the page.
I thought maybe there'd be more of a theme. It does just seem like these are mostly rock songs.
Well, look how different the ones at the bottom are. Like, it's clear that she kind of threw her songs towards the top, and then she's like, okay, what songs does Mikey Mike like?
Because the report on here says a lot of these were songs that he played at practice.
Mike Vrabel's 50, so he's 5 years older than Diana.
Okay, my favorite part of the story real quick, or this latest development. So Diana deleted her Spotify, which is not surprising. But Mike Vrabel just renamed his.
It's been such a microcosm of this entire relationship.
Okay, so
Diana has to destroy her career. Mike is like, I'm taking the third round of, or the third day of the draft off.
Well, yeah, no, you have a point. But he renamed it Ty Car.
Okay.
I think that's bizarre.
That is weird. I don't know what that means.
Then you look at the names of his children, Tyler and Carter. So if you're really trying to hide your Spotify, simply going with Ty Car. I mean, that's
Bobby Williams
That's
level.
Bobby Williams level. It really is. I got to come up with a fake name fast.
Robert Whaley. Well, my first name and Darren's last name.
Bobby Williams.
Also-
yeah, Williams.
Diana naming her son Mike
Yeah.
while she's having an affair with a man named Mike.
Rough.
And then Vrabel, at a time when things are not going great in his life, bringing his kids into it by hiding his playlists on whatever
Old
this
Ty
is
Car.
on Spotify under his kids' names is tough. That's a rough one. I hung out. Well, I didn't hang out with. I was a server at a watering hole locally, just across the street, actually at a hotel, and Papa Roach came in. And I didn't know who they were. Yeah, I knew who the band was. I knew who Papa Roach is. I couldn't identify them by name, but the bartender was like, "That's Papa Roach. They're staying in the hotel." You could always tell when there was a celebrity around. They were, without a doubt, the coolest guys I've ever met in my life. They were so down to earth and well-traveled. Obviously, musicians are. They get to travel the entire planet. These dudes, for making that song, Last Resort, which is so, I don't even know what the term is for this,
Bad.
new alt, butt rock, whatever you want to call it. were the nicest people I'd ever met. So well adjusted, extraordinarily polite to the entire staff. Like, took it easy. We're just like, yeah, we're gonna be very responsible. We're ordering food. I don't know if they had a drink or what, but like, very cool dudes. So while I may not own any Papa Roach albums, I'm not buying their latest vinyl. Giving a big thumbs up to the Papas and the Roaches. Good fellas, good guys.
I want to hear about celebrity run-ins where they weren't good guys.
Oh, did I tell you my T.I. story?
Not a nice guy?
Oh, do we need to save this? Or should I just tell it now?
Go for it, yeah.
So T.I., the rapper T.I., Rubber Band Man, comes into the...
Is he the auto-tune guy?
No, that's T-Pain.
Okay.
I like T-Pain, who's also apparently a very cool guy. T.I. comes into the bar. Immediately, the entire bar takes on a new odor, which now is what every major city smells like. It smelled like marijuana. But the entire bar immediately comes in with like six guys. They're hanging out. It's the same day that Allen Iverson got traded to the Denver Nuggets. I believe it was.
From Philly?
From Philly, because he's a basketball fan. And so I was talking to T.I. about the trade because the bar had TVs up and we were like talking about it, and I was a big basketball fan at the time. So we were just talking about like, oh, it's a good trade. It's kind of interesting, big move, yada, yada, yada. One of his guys in his group comes up and pays the bill. First of all, T.I., I don't know if he was on probation or something, was not drinking. He was drinking Shirley Temples, which is very funny. But he his buddy comes up and pays the bill, and it's not crazy. It's probably like $80. And pays with cash and pays in all 20s and gives us $120. And T.I., I kid you not, pulls a George Costanza, walks up to the bar, and pulls a 20 out of the bartender's hand after they had paid and put it in his pocket.
Nice.
So T.I., basketball fan, I could say ball knower because he like knew Allen Iverson and the trade pieces that were moving around. And Chauncey Billups, I can't remember all the pieces that got moved where and who was what. But maybe it was even the second AI trade. Neither here nor there, but a cheapskate.
Or a guy, we don't need to slander anybody. I was going to say a guy on a budget for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely on a budget.
You've got he's got to steal that 20 back because he's going to buy, what was that? What was that drug that was making everybody go crazy? Bath salts.
Bath salts. Yeah, spice.
He's going to go behind the back of his manager and go buy some bath salts or something. But I don't know.
And this was like after You Can Have Whatever You Like. If you know that song, Christian, that was like it was a big T.I. hit. That song was everywhere. So he had made some money, but
Christian,
his tip.
Do you
know what? Ironically, you know what his original nickname was? Lil Tip.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he went to Tip, and then he went to T.I. So I always thought it was funny that he actually gave us a little tip.
Christian, do you ever make a playlist for your mistress?
Well, I don't have a mistress.
Do you label it Dalton? Do you hide it under your child's name?
Do you make it public? Can you make it private?
I think my Spotify is public.
I've never had anyone make me a playlist. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think I ever had anyone burn me a CD that was like, these are my favorite. Not a girl. It was like, these are my favorite tracks. You should listen to these. And now I'm a little heartbroken. I feel a little empty inside. I don't know the love that Diana and Mike have.
We'll make Ben a playlist. Song 1, Skater Boy.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I heard that song. I want some deep cuts. I want something that makes you think of me.
What's
I don't know.
What's an Avril Lavigne deep cut?
I only know the one.
That's all I know. She had another one. I know she had another hit besides Skater Boy. And now she's dead?
Complicated.
Didn't you say that?
Avril Lavigne is absolutely alive.
You brought it up. You said she was dead once.
Avril Lavigne?
Yeah.
No, I did not ever say Avril
did.
Lavigne was dead.
You said there was a conspiracy.
Her career was dead.
He said there's a conspiracy out there that she hasn't been seen in like 20 years or something. And that
doesn't sound like me, but I love that
conspiracy. It does
conspiracy.
sound like you. It sounds just like you.
I do remember this.
Yeah, right. Krysten Peek is going to join us.
Very much alive.
Coming up next.
Avril Lavigne replacement conspiracy theory.
That's what it was.
Originated in 2011 that she's no longer with us. I'm not going to read what, but now there's somebody else in her place.
Yeah.
Be a hell of a move.
Right up there with Damar Hamlin.
Remember when there were like 5 Saddam Husseins?
Yeah.
Saddam Hussein used to be the dictator in Iraq before his regime was toppled in the early aughts.
The rapper Jeremiah, do you know Jeremiah? There's a theory that he doesn't perform at all of his concerts. Like sometimes he has a decoy go out there when he wants a night off, which I love that theory. Just a look-alike. Just go up there and lip sync for a while.
Krysten Peek is next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All systems go. This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson. Now, every day from 2 to 6 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Quickly, Jake, before we get started with Krysten Peek, do you know what the one of the albums for Papa Roach is called? The Paramore Sessions.
Oh, that ties in.
Do you think she just Googled Paramore music? Not the band, but found some Papa Roach and thought this is for Vrabel. It's for my guy.
What
my Paramore,
the
my
story,
manstress.
The story that just keeps on giving. Join Scotty G and the coach coming up on Thursday from 10 to 2 at Tim Daly Mazda and Sandy, 10785 South Auto Mall Drive. It's time to talk some basketball with one of our absolute favorites, contributor for NBA.com and HHQ Sports. She's also color analyst for NBA Future Now on the NBA app. She is Krysten Peek with us here on Jake and Ben. Hi, Krysten.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Doing terrific. Before we get into the NBA draft itself, and, the Jazz are guaranteed a top 8 pick, which was a big victory for them, I do want to look at the early entry list that just came out, yesterday. It had to be official, and it is really interesting. There are only 71 players. I know Draft Express had this, and you've retweeted it. Only 71 players declared for the draft. Well, there's only 60 spots. It's a very small number compared to just what was happening a few years ago.
Yeah, and the basketball world knew that this was going to be happening, especially in this draft, and you're hearing all the rumblings of next year isn't as strong. And so when you look at picks 20 to 30, and those contracts are usually anywhere from 2.1 mil to 2.7 mil, and you can make more than that going back to school. You're seeing a lot of players like Elijah Arenas, like Braylon Mullins, elect to go back to school for one more year, make the money that they're going to make because both of them are going to exceed that number, and still develop alongside their peers and grow and hopefully improve their draft stock for a weaker class in 27.
What does that do to the value of, second round picks going forward? How's that going to, it seems to me that's where it's going to have its most impact, no?
Oh, absolutely. And this is where NBA teams are really going to have to dive and trust their scouting team. When you're looking at the second round and you see the number kind of dwindling down. So you're looking at a player, who's probably like a 4 or 5 year player. Okay, how was he? Where did he start school? How did he finish this year? I think a player like Jaden Bradley is really going to kind of climb the draft boards just in the sense where he was Big 12 Player of the Year. He led that Arizona team to a deep run in the tournament and had a great year. And so I think that's really going to benefit him. But for the other players, for teams specifically, if you have a second round pick, you're going to have to really go and trust your scouting team on what they saw all season.
And is it going to be like 80% seniors? Because now the European players can come play in the U.S. so easily in college, and guys want to go back to college because, as you're saying, if you're good enough to be in the NBA or the second round draft pick, you're probably looking at least $1 million, which is more than a lot of what second round picks get now that go on two-way contracts. I've got to imagine it's just upperclassmen now in the second round.
Absolutely, and that's what we saw this trend start last year, where the NBA draft is getting older and older. Yes, you're always going to have the one and done talent that we see projected at the top, and especially in this year, there's a chance that the first 10 picks could all be one and done freshmen, and that's never happened before. But as the draft goes on, it's going to be a lot of seniors, fifth-year seniors that we're seeing drafted.
I don't know if we've ever asked you this, Krysten, not Christian, our producer, Krysten. Sorry about that. We've never asked you this. When you talk to these guys, what kind of numbers, do you get a sense what kind of numbers that they're really raking in college? So
I don't know the exact numbers, but I will give an example. I don't think A.J. DeBonta made $7 million at BYU. I think if you put collectively what his Nike contract was, what his Red Bull contract was, and what BYU was giving him in just flat out NIL, I think you're closer to like the 5 or 5.5, 6. But I don't think BYU gave A.J. DeBonta $7 million. That's I don't think that happened. I do think Tyron Stokes, when he commits to either Kentucky or Kansas today in a couple hours here, he's announcing on Inside the NBA at 6:30 Eastern. I think he will be the highest paid college player in the NIL era for next year.
Are these guys getting 4 or 5? I mean, we've heard about local players at smaller schools getting $2+ million now. Is that just the going rate? Maybe it's not getting up to 6, 7, 8, but 2 is a pretty standard number.
2 is a standard number. If you are a impact player, 2 is yeah. Isn't that crazy that we're saying $2 million is a going rate for NIL? And I do know some universities, what they do is they incentivize these players. So it's like, okay, we're going to give you this baseline, and it might not be what you want, but you come to our school, and we're going to have opportunities for you to make more money at the local, regional, and national level with different campaigns. If you play well, then they're going to want you. And that's why we saw so much of the Boozer twins during the tournament. They were in AT&T. I mean, they were just all over the place, for different NIL opportunities during March Madness. But so there are different tiers to it to incentivize these players to come, and opportunities as well.
We found out that BYU is in the top 5 schools for 2027 prospect Obinna Ezike. I don't know if I'm...
No, it's Obi Akizi.
Oh, Obi Akizi.
Obi Akizi.
Yeah. Well, that's easier.
Well, tell us a little bit about him.
Yeah, Obi's great. He played at Southeastern Prep with Beckham Black this past year. He's a really good big. I think what fans and what the staff were hoping to get from Xavier Staten this past year is what Obi would be if he reclasses and elects to go to school. He also went to Louisville and Michigan, and I know Maryland is his other top school as well. So, to be in a top 4 running for a player like Obi, he's got great positional size, really good hands. He can catch the ball in traffic, in transition. Still needs to kind of develop his pick and pop game. He's not necessarily a 3-point threat in the pick and pop, but he has that rim protection. He has that size, that post player size, and is someone that can really improve and make strides and grow as a player in a short amount of time.
All right, Krysten, the Jazz won their coin toss with the Sacramento Kings, so they're guaranteed to hold on to this year's lottery pick, a big victory for them. It's going to be top 8 at worst. Give me a sense of how this draft stacks up against last year, which now we have a year in retrospect, and we can see the top 4, and really 5 players have been great. Ace Bailey looks like a very good player, and he went 5th, and he's probably the 5th best player of this rookie class so far. Is the 5th best player in this year's draft better than you think what Ace Bailey was as a prospect? What about the top pick, AJ or Darren Peterson versus, Cooper Flagg like we saw last year? And then when you get down to the 6, 7, 8 range.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think I just wrote about this, and I just did a podcast and talked about this, so I'm glad you guys asked. I think this draft is different. I do think AJ DeBonta is going to be the first one off the board. I've talked to several teams, and they kind of seem to think that as well. But then when you are 2, 3, and 4, and you're looking at either Darren Peterson, Cameron Boozer, or Caleb Wilson, you cannot go wrong. I don't care what sort of situation you're in. If you get one of those 4 players in this year's draft, that is a win. I don't care. You cannot convince me otherwise. And then 5 through 11, I'm calling it the point guard lottery because there are so many lead guards. Lead guards are really hard to come by, especially in a one-and-done sort of situation. So when we're looking at Darius Acuff, Keaton Wagler, Kingston Fleming, Michael Brown Jr., and Braden Burries, and also to an extent LeBaron Filan, I think that's going to be the second half of the lottery. So you got tier 1 with those 4 players that you're going to eventually just build around, whoever you get, whether that's the 4 that I just named. Then you have the lead guards. It's a point guard lottery. And then 10 through 14, it's best available. So you got Nate Amen. I'd really like Yaxel Lendenberg. Hannes Steinbach is another name that I hear a lot from teams. So that's kind of the structure of the lottery and the way I see it going. So if you are the Jazz and you're looking for a lead guard, 8 is a perfectly fine place to find one. You're going to get a lot of good value out of.
Does it still feel like AJ DeBonta is in the pole position for the number 1 pick?
I do. I do think it's going to be him for number one.
Kristen,
unless it's like, unless it's like, if the Pacers get the number one pick, no, I still think they would take AJ. Now I'm trying to talk myself out of it. I can't even talk myself out of it. I do think whoever gets number one is going to take AJ.
If the Jazz were to land in the top four and get any one of DeBonsa, Peterson, Boozer, or Wilson, is that the best prospect on the Jazz's roster?
Ooh, great question. Maybe not right away, but long term, yes.
Okay.
You want to talk some NBA playoffs, Kristen? Is there anything that has surprised you thus far?
Oh, I love that Jonathan Kuminga is playing really well in Atlanta. That's been fun to watch.
Yeah,
I've been on this free JK movement, and when he was at the Warriors for a couple years now. So to see him free and playing well, that's been fun.
That's kind of interesting because it ties in a little bit to the Jazz, who the Jazz aren't old by any means, but Lowry's going to be 29 before too long. Jaren Jackson Jr. is 26, but he's like very clearly in his prime. And the Jazz do have this Ace Bailey, this lottery pick contingent. Like, let's say the Jazz get a top 2 or 3 pick, and it's, one of these guys, DeBonsa or Peterson. Let's just say it's those two who are very young particularly and are going to need some runway to really hit their prime. Are the Jazz running the risk of doing the same thing Golden State ran into with Kuminga, of trying to do the 2 timeline thing where they never just developed Kuminga at all, and he looks like he's ready to play now when they've lost him?
Of course it's a risk. I mean, there's risks in the draft every single year. I don't think it's as glaring as what there was a clear divide between the golden tickets, the golden goose of Draymond Green, Steph Curry, and Klay Thompson when they brought in Moses Moody and Kuminga. And so there wasn't even a chance for any sort of chemistry or camaraderie off the court for JK to even be involved in, because they were just so much older and they kind of already had their little 3-pack, And so I think the Jazz are different that way. One, because the guys that you just mentioned are more inclusive players, I think, than Draymond Green is. Let's be honest. Call spade a spade. And also, you also have a lot of younger guys on the roster too. So it's not so much older guys versus rookies coming in. There's a lot of players that build harmony, in a roster construction.
Well, you joke about the free Kuminga thing, but honestly, it's a fail on Steve Kerr's part. And I don't know the backstory, but you hear all this stuff, Kristen. It might have been he wanted somebody else in the draft, and all of a sudden you get on a coach's bad side and you don't get a chance to fulfill potential. It happens way more than you would think. I say good for that dude, because obviously the coach of Golden State was not reading or using his talent correctly. I mean, talk about Ben's question between the dual timeline things. Well, who's doing it, and what are the goals you're trying to accomplish?
Right. Yeah, I think, we even saw, the Suns got swept, and there was a report that came out that teammates were saying, we don't know where Kevin Durant is.
Right.
So it's clear that there's some sort of miscommunication in that locker room as well. So it happens on every roster. I think you just want to try to bring in, and there's so much. I'm glad you guys brought this up, because there's so many times where a GM or a scout or executive will ask me, okay, who is he off the court? How would he be as a teammate? This and that, because there's just so much that goes into it outside of just being a really good basketball player. You got to be able to harmonize with your guys that you already have in the locker room. And that's what's so interesting and so fun about the draft is 60 guys are drafted every year regardless. So you got to make it work.
Kristen, you mentioned the point guard draft or the lead guard draft after those top 4 spots. Keaton Wagler, Kingston Flemings, Darius Acuff, Braden Burries, et cetera. Do you think there's a front runner right now to go number 5 overall, or is that going to be team dependent?
I think it's Darius Acuff. And if it is team dependent and they don't want a 6'2" guard, then I think it's going to be Keaton Wagler. Just because he just looks so much like Tyrese Halliburton 2.0 out there. And I think he's further along as this 1 year at Illinois than Tyrese was after his freshman year at Iowa State. So I would put my money on either one of those 2 players.
Krysten, we are a fan of yours and all of your great work. Thank you. Seriously, thanks for coming on. It's so great to have somebody who's this dialed in on the draft and prospects and all that who's willing to come on. So
Thanks,
we appreciate
Krysten.
it.
Thanks for having me, guys. Anytime.
There you go. That's our friend Krysten Peek, contributor for NBA.com, HHQ Sports, color analyst for NBA Future Now on the NBA app, but really has carved out a great niche for herself with prospects.
Yeah,
and
knowing
draft.
them from a very early run in their careers.
So she is great to have on because we get to hit so many different things with her.
A reminder that the NBA Draft Lottery is a week from Sunday, and it's going to be early. Last year we did the show. We were out at JCW in the afternoon watching the Draft Lottery. This year it's going to be a week from Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern, so a midday Sunday.
That means that they're giving somebody controversial the number one pick, and they want to bury
baby.
it.
Utah Jazz going to win it.
I think Dallas is getting it again.
Dallas is getting it again. They're going to find a way to give
It's
it to
gonna
the
be-
Thunder. And
It's going to be a 1-2 repeat from last year.
okay, exact same thing. Just
It'll be
build some dynasties.
Dallas, San Antonio.
Okay.
I don't
Why
think
not?
San Antonio has a pick, but
Yeah,
somehow
they'll find one. They'll find a way to get one.
somehow it's going to end up that
Penalty
way.
pick.
Wait a minute. The Spurs had a 0 chance at getting the second pick. Well, I don't know. The envelope came out.
Wizards have the worst record in the NBA. Now all these top 14 or top 3 teams have the identical lottery odds, but they can fall to different spots. Wizards have the worst record in the NBA. They're at 1. Pacers are at 2. Brooklyn Nets are at 3. Jazz 4, obviously tied with the Kings, but the Jazz won that tiebreaker. And then it goes Grizzlies, Hawks via the New Orleans Pelicans, Dallas, Chicago, and Milwaukee round out the top 10. It's going to be interesting.
Dallas is getting it again.
Dallas is getting it. And
AJ DiBonsa and Cooper Flagg together at last.
And then they'll move OKC up to 2, and they can draft Darren Peterson or Cam Boozer or whoever they want. Good look for the NBA.
I'm trying to get the...
By the way, this is what's going to happen with the flattened lottery odds.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Well,
what's happening next year.
Yeah, it makes it easier for them to rig, for sure, because they can justify it. And be like, well, everybody had an 8% chance.
What does it tell you?
What do you want from me? I don't see the Oklahoma City connection, though. I don't see the excuse for them to get it.
No. There's not really the...
I mean, Nico bit the bullet for the
Correct.
league. So they're getting 2 in a row.
Other than the Thunder serving as the piggy bank for the NBA for a long time,
Yeah.
just saying we'll take all your bad contracts to keep rosters moving, keep everything fluid, and but they've since been rewarded with Chet Holmgren. And they've done well.
No, how about this? Oh, they're not. Are they eligible? The Clippers.
Oh yeah, give it back. Well, the Clippers are, but the Clippers. So here's how you'll know the Clippers got it fixed: if the Pacers fall to 5, because then the pick goes to LA for the Vucevic trade, not Vucevic, Zubac trade. Excuse me, the Zubac trade. So if it stays in the top 4, the Pacers get it. If it falls to 5, it goes to LAC.
What a dumb trade, really? Why don't you trade him in a future?
I was surprised. I was surprised at that move. Because 5's still potentially a really good pick.
Because that's what I'm talking about with the Clippers. Like, hey, we're going to fake punish you by making you, voiding the contract for Kawhi. But, dude, we're going to land you the number 1 pick, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, we're going to get you a top 5 spot.
We're going to get you taken care of. Don't be mad.
That does, I think, reveal exactly what... It falls in line exactly with what Krysten Peek just said, though, which is if you get any of the top 4 guys, Peterson, DiBonsa, Boozer, or Wilson... You're laughing your way to the bank. These are 4 very high-level prospects. And then 5, which is why the Pacers put that top 4 protection on it, we're saying, well, we can probably live without some of these guards, especially if you have a good guard, which does bring up some interesting questions for the Jazz, who have a very good guard in Keontae George, though I think both you and I would certainly agree that not irreplaceable if you get the right guy.
Coming up next, it's Hot Take Tuesday. You have some hot takes?
No, I got to develop it. I was
over there, Ben.
Wait until 5:30, but we're moving it up 2 hours, so I got to develop some hot takes over the next 2 hours.
Cook up some hot takes. Krysten, you cook up 1 or 2 in there of your own. We'll get to that coming up next.
You're leading off, Krysten.
It's the Jake and Ben Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson. Now, every day from 2 to 6 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Join Scotty and the coach coming up on Friday from 10 to 2 at Next Gen Motors, grand opening at their new location in Linden, 590 North State Street. I know this one.
Yeah.
This is on Diana Rossini's.
Vrabel playlist. Turning the page.
Indeed. All right, Ben. This is.
I like her looking out for her manstress. That's a supportive. That's ride or die, and he clearly is not ride or die. He's turned his back on her.
I
won't forgive him.
I do like Christian's observation that she tried to force her crap on him with the playlist. Like the top of the playlist is clearly her. Like, I hope he gets to like these ones.
Christian, what was the first thing you moved into your? Give me a little backstory quickly before we get to our hot takes. You met your wife in college, correct?
Yeah.
When did you? Who was the first person? Were you guys living in apartments or dorms? What was the deal there? Were you guys living at home?
Apartments.
You were both in separate apartments.
Yeah.
Trailer park.
Who was the first person to move an item into the other person's house? And
she moved into my apartment.
No, before you guys were living together.
Okay, yeah.
What did she start leaving at your house? Was there like a thing? Was there a toothbrush? Was there, Christian doesn't decorate correctly? Like he doesn't have a welcome mat in his front door? Was there anything you were obviously doing wrong in her eyes that she fixed immediately?
No, just food.
Okay.
She's like stocked
She has
the
a
pantry.
gluten intolerance.
Yeah.
So she has
Well,
to have certain...
and she was just always over, so I was always making her food anyways, so she was just...
And you just had like a 30 rack and some mustard in the fridge.
Yeah.
Okay.
I once had somebody tell me that all that's in your fridge is beer and condiments. So, yeah. That's pretty much it.
That's it, baby. Love me or leave me.
Yeah, that's there's plenty of room for whatever you want to put in there.
I left this open. I just cleaned it out for you.
Knock yourself right out. All right, Hot Take Tuesday. Speaking of Christian, this segment is a Christian joint. Do you want to start?
I have two that are kitchen related. Is that all right? And they're not good.
Okay.
So I'm warning you now. All right, and I did this over the weekend. I've had a very fancy smoker for a while, and it was a former client, and they did a very wonderful job, and they were very nice to take care of us. They gave me a great smoker, and this summer, and I've used it a bunch, but this summer I've dedicated, like, I'm really going to learn how to use it very well, and I want to use it, and I've done it, and I've done a lot better than I ever have. And I still think the culture of, like, smoking cookies or smoking cakes or anything that really belongs in an oven should stick in an oven. Like the culture of the guy who's like, you're not going to catch me opening the oven door. That's ladies' work is ridiculous. The smoker's not for that. And by the way, it's literally the exact same thing just outside.
Do people say that about ovens?
Well,
that's my dad, by the way.
Cookies.
My dad has a smoker, and he throws everything on there. And my brother, who still lives at home, he's like, Dad, you don't need to smoke every single thing
that
he's
bakes.
like sick of eating at home, yeah.
Because it does infuse it with smoky flavor. By the way, it's way more expensive to use. Like to go buy a bag of pellets is what, $12 to $20, depending on what you're getting. Your oven, either the gas or electricity, is a fraction of that for a 4-hour or an 8-hour or an all-day smoke.
These sexist men in your example are aware that these new versions of smokers are just ovens.
It's literally an oven.
It's literally
it's
an oven.
a wood oven.
It's like the game Uno, where they took Crazy Eights and put a new label on it and then sold it as a brand new game. It's an oven that goes outside. And then they put little pellets into it to give the
smoke flavor.
The smoke flavor. It's not, I mean, any traditional, like, I smoke my own meats or whatever, that guy laughs at the
oven guy or the anti-oven guy.
The smoker guy, yeah, or whatever.
Yes.
So just know before you go, well, I'm not going to open that oven, that you bought an oven.
Correct.
You put it outside.
You have an outside oven.
It's an oven.
Yeah. You have a bathroom. It's called an outhouse. And look, there's a lot of value to the smoke. I love my smoker. I really do. And the food.
Yeah, we have one. It's great.
I smoked tri-tip over the weekend. It was awesome.
But people should know that engineering-wise, it's just an oven.
It's one function. So if you think you're improving or somehow more masculine because you make cookies on a smoker,
just use the oven.
You're just wasting time going outside.
Okay, I like that one.
And then my other one would be you really probably only need one pan in your house, and it should be a cast iron pan and get rid of everything else you have. Non-stick, whatever. You don't even need soap when you're cleaning your cast iron pan. In fact, you're not supposed to use soap.
I don't like doing over easy eggs on cast iron.
Okay. What I like is how even you get of a cook with a cast iron because the whole thing heats up. And there are some speedy items that are nice to do with like a nonstick pan or kind of a bigger saucepan if you want, I guess. But if you're in a pinch, get yourself a cast iron pan and throw everything else out.
All right, Christian.
You have one that's sports or no?
Oh, yeah, I have several.
Okay, let's go sports. I was just looking at the playoff bracket. Magic up 3-1. I know you guys like the Magic. I don't. I think the Magic stink. I think they're going to lose to either Cleveland or Toronto, whoever they go up against next.
They might beat Toronto. I don't think they would beat Cleveland. But I'm with you. They are going to trick themselves into thinking they're a good team. And I think you're right. The hot take is that the Magic are suddenly
Why
good.
are you out on the Magic?
They can't. It's the same problem they had last year and the year before. They can't score when they need to. They're always hurt. Both the Wagners always hurt.
Yeah.
Paolo, I don't think is as good as a lot of people think he is. I think he sometimes is a little bit of a stat sheet stuffer.
I think there's some truth to that.
They're good on defense, though.
They do like to guard. I don't think they have a good coach.
I think Paolo can be a number one, but he's one of these very specific number ones that needs a perfect roster around him. He's not a plug-and-play number one.
But can I just say that saying the 8th seed is going to lose in the next round, I don't think is that hot of a take.
Okay. I think that's fair.
I don't know if that's a real scorcher.
But I like the take.
Oh, sure.
And they're about to win, and people are going to say, like, the Magic are back. This was the sleeping dragon that
it's funny
talked
that
about, sleeping giant.
Wet blanket Christian is already throwing a wet blanket over it before they've even won.
Yeah. And they do have to win one of the next three.
All right. Anything else, Christian?
No, that's about it for now. I can't fire off all my hot takes. Just second
Sure you
week.
can. That's the point of the segment. Just fire them off, dude. Okay, here's my hot take, or one of hot takes. We can do a few. Brandon Aiyuk is a genius.
Okay.
Genius.
Give me some backstory.
And I love it because he is so bitter, and this is so great. All right. Brandon Aiyuk had a falling out with the 49ers last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like disappeared from their team, basically. So now they're at an impasse where he's not showing up to anything, right? But the 49ers refuse to release him because he's got a huge contract and they want to trade it so that they get some value out of it and don't just have to eat all the guaranteed money by releasing him.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to stick it to the 49ers, do you know what Brandon Aiyuk is doing?
What's he done?
Dropped off the face of the planet. So there's no team out there that wants to trade for him because he's
MIA.
MIA?
Yeah, he's off the grid.
They can't even get a hold of him. So how are you supposed to trade a guy that you can't even get a hold of?
We don't know what we're getting.
They're going to have to release him.
And then he can do whatever he
And then
wants.
he can do whatever he wants. Normally, I don't like this stuff, but this is a super bitter move, and I kind of like it.
And you don't like the 49ers.
And I really don't like the 49ers.
I don't know if Brandon Aiyuk has anything left in the tank. Certainly could. He's also battled injuries and things.
Oh, somebody would sign him for sure.
Somebody would sign him.
Yeah.
No, he may be hiding because maybe he stinks and he doesn't want to get traded for, and then he can pick his spot and then say, well, I got to pick you. I didn't tell you to trade for me. That's your fault if you traded for me. But I'm with you. I think this is a great move, and maybe we need more of this.
Here's a quote from an NFL insider talking to Armpit. Quote, we're not just going to give him away unless we feel like we can get something back for him. The issue is that teams don't want to trade for that contract, and they don't want to trade for that contract when they can't even discuss it with Brandon Aiyuk.
Yeah.
John Lynch, the GM, was literally begging teams to trade for him. He's like, our lines are open. Please call us.
Take him.
John, just cut him.
Yeah, you got to cut him.
You got to cut him.
Brandon's done nothing, but he's cornered you.
And you really hate it. You're going to have to eat a bunch of guaranteed stuff. But you never should have signed him to that deal in the first place.
Yeah.
And now he's got you by the short hairs. Good luck. But the bitterness in that I really do enjoy.
Crazy like a fox.
And then I guess next hot take, Chauncey Billups better look out.
I worry that we may have seen Damian Jones alive for the last time today.
Damon Jones.
Damian Jones is a different
You think he's going to
personality.
be murdered?
I don't know. Maybe he's going to Brandon Aiyuk and have to disappear himself and reemerge as what was in Goodfellas. What did he come back as? What was his fake name in the end? After he flips.
Yeah. Ray Liotta's character.
After Ray Liotta flips and has to come back and change his different name, and he ended up writing the book, which is how he got outed. But Damon Jones today flipped on the 30.
Well, we don't know he flipped, honestly.
Well, he pled guilty.
He allocated to, 27 counts of fraud, basically. Yeah. But the thing is, he's either riding the rap, as they say, right? Pleading guilty because he's guilty and is going to do the sentence. Or he is rolling on everybody like you suggested. I don't know I don't know what they could have charged him with. That's why this thing is, I mean, is 27 counts of fraud a step down from what they could have charged him with? Does that make any sense?
Sure. Was it 80?
Was it 80?
27?
Was it something else? Was there robbery? Well, I guess fraud is kind of robbery, but you know what I'm saying. Was there something else that they're not charging him with that he is getting in exchange for his testimony? Or is he just in front of these guys and saying, I don't, because he legit had a gambling problem. And he just says, I don't have any money. I can't defend myself. I'm just going to plead guilty.
Yeah.
I don't know. So, but if I'm Chauncey Billups, I'm probably sweating it a little bit today.
Yeah, the question I guess will be, because he did, as you mentioned, plead guilty today to all these charges.
He admitted to tipping off gamblers on inside info. And he admitted to luring suckers to those poker games.
He made over $10 million in his gambling ring. He texted people, go get a big bet on Milwaukee tonight before this information's out. And at this time, he was an assistant coach with the Lakers.
Yeah.
Right? He was getting legit inside information on LeBron. Now, one of them went wrong. One of them, he told the guy he wasn't going to play, and they actually did end up playing. But yes, he was also involved in the poker games where they were bringing in big bettors, and then the games were fixed.
Exactly.
So he's going to go away for a long time if we ever see him again, period. If he's flipping on anybody.
My last hot take is, yes, sports are pricing out normal people and nobody cares. And I don't think anybody's going to start caring. For example, Ben, do you know what the cheapest ticket to see the Knicks play the Hawks tonight in the Madison Square Garden?
$300.
$376.
Okay, not a bad guess.
Courtside.
Oof. $22,500.
$46,555. Now, this is on the secondary market, right? So I'm talking about pricing out the normal fans. I'm not just having a socialist rant at the professional franchises, even though I know that they are raising prices across the board, basically across the country. But how are normal people supposed to have access to that experience? And maybe you say normal people aren't entitled to these experiences, which I understand they're not. But that did used to be a priority of professional sports leagues. And when the gate mattered more and they had to get butts in seats, those types of things were a priority. And now that it's just so corporate, they don't care. And it's not going to change. I wish there was something that you could say. I mean, it's not going to change. The Jazz are going to redo the Upper Bowl this offseason, and I would guess that some of the normal folks in the Upper Bowl are going to see a price increase. I don't know that, by the way. I have no idea. But, I mean, the teams will justify it by saying, look at the secondary market. We're taking a beating. Yeah. We should just raise our prices because why should StubHub make the money or whatever? Or these ticket scalpers. And so we're going to raise our prices because we should be making that money, not them. So I don't know, Ben. I don't think there's a solution. I think, little Dalton Esparza is going to have to get his old man to get him a press pass because there's just, I don't know, the access for
becoming inaccessible.
Your access for your normal people is just going down and down and down. What in college football for the Cougs and the Utes? What did seat prices do? What have Crimson Club do? Yeah. What has happened there as the university is more and more desperate for money?
All right, I'll give you a hot take to match your hot take or to follow up with it. I think the trade-off might be worth it. Now, here's the problem. Not as an owner, as a fan. The trade-off now is you can watch every game. And while it is expensive to subscribe to the several different services you have to get to be able to watch the games, and yes, at a point, KJazz was free. By the way, KJazz is still free. You can still watch Jazz games. But that's not going to be permanent, I don't think. Maybe it will be.
Hey, I love the access you have on television. And you do, even with as convoluted as it is, you can watch far more games now than you've ever had been able to.
Is better as an adult. It's the key point. As an adult, than the ability to go to games formerly.
I think we're talking about two different things. I don't think it's related. I don't think it's a trade-off.
Here's why it's a trade-off. Because as you're mentioning, you don't need the gate anymore. The gate doesn't matter all that much to owners anymore. And why does the gate not matter anymore? Because they get so much money via TV.
Right.
So it doesn't matter if they get everybody in the seat. They're just maximizing every dollar they can more and more and more to make themselves rich. But they're already rich because the TV deals have made them ultra rich. But that's also given fans more viewership opportunities.
I hear you, but the TV experience and the in-person experience are entirely different. You remember, Ben, and maybe this isn't fair because of our jobs, we watch so many games on TV, but you remember big games you watched on TV that were just big random moments. I can still remember watching Eric Montross beating Chris Webber in the fight, where I was sitting in my living room and all that. But that it was entirely because of the game. I could tell you a random game I went to in person as a kid that was a 30-point blowout that the experiences are... That's what I'm saying when they're not related. I understand what you're saying. But the experiences are totally different. And now one experience is basically off limits for most of the community.
Now, that's what I said as an adult and why I wanted to point out as an adult, because I do think you're right. The kids missing out on this is actually a major problem. And this is where it could be a problem because it is the kids when we were sitting out on the plaza on Friday getting you ready for Game 3 of the Utah Mammoth. All of these kids running around who have a million different things going on in their life. They don't really have any fandom. They don't identify as any one thing until they go to something. My daughter played minor league, or not minor league, played Little League baseball, and now she's a lifelong Dodgers fan because the team she played for was the Dodgers, and she got a Dodgers hat. These kids that go to the Mammoth game, who are lucky enough that their parents could get them in, are going to become lifelong fans because they develop that identity young. And that's really beneficial, and that can't be replaced by watching it on TV. You're right, because I don't think TV is impacting kids the same way it may have us even, because there are so many other distractions going on while you're sitting at home, and that's where being in person really matters. But the ability to be in person as an adult, I think, actually trails most games when you're watching them at home.
I would bet adults still have a similar experience. Maybe it's not as romantic as kids, but I mean, how many adults are out there talking about being at game when Donovan eliminated Oklahoma City.
This is exactly, so this is funny. I had this exact conversation last night, which was I was working, I was employed during that game. I was not at that game, and I don't know why I didn't go to that game, but I was not in the arena when that happened. And so I kind of only vaguely remember where I was sitting or watching it. To your point, where if I was in the arena, I would have remembered that for the rest of my life.
And you go to so many games, it's not really fair.
It's totally a different conversation.
It all melds together in your brain. But think of if you went to a Jazz game a year or 2 Jazz games a year or a Mammoth game a year. I mean, it all will stand out to you no matter who they played or what the score was or all of that.
And look, I'm a White Sox fan. I could subscribe to MLB.com. I mean, I recognize I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth now and would watch more White Sox games, which is a good trade-off for me. It's way cheaper than trying to go to Chicago and watch a game or whatever, but I will always remember going and seeing them play in Seattle
and baseball,
more than any random game I've ever watched.
Baseball is a different animal because there are so many games. The gate still really matters in baseball.
It does.
It really matters. And you just have so many tickets that you're able to sell. And with baseball, the experience is the most important, I would argue, out of any sport. Like the romance of sitting in a ballpark and having a hot dog and the weather's great. I mean, Ben, you're picturing yourself sitting at Smith's ballpark right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
In your, I don't know, some random summer. You know what I mean? Yeah. The experience in baseball matters more than the NBA or than the NFL, I would argue.
Agreed.
All right, stay tuned. More developments in the Brendan Sorsby situation.
And other bad news from the NCAA.
We'll get to it coming up next. Stay tuned. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Not only do these guys give you the best Jazz coverage in the market, they've got you covered with the Mammoth, the Cougars, the Utes, and the Aggies. This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Another classic from the Rossini Turning the Page Vrabel Love Serenade.
This
the
is
Paramore playlist.
This is one of the worst songs from maybe one of the worst periods of music history ever.
I told you these dudes were cool. Papa Roach were some cool dudes. But they are responsible for this.
Yeah. Hey, we're teaming up with Beehive Meals, honoring people that impact youth sports in our communities. Nominate the youth sports volunteer for the Beehive Meals Hero of the Week. Enter at kslsports.com/contests and listen every Thursday to us, Jake and Ben, for the winner. It's the Beehive Meals Hero of the Week.
I wonder if maybe you and the band should get together and put something together for Rossini and Vrabel.
Oh, it does seem like that's right up our alley.
It seems like it's your Q zone.
Yeah.
Really where you guys
We could throw, really where we really live.
You've gathered a lot of information now about the
There is
the
a
couple.
lot. Ben, the Cincinnati Athletic Department apparently was alerted in August to quarterback Brendan Sorsby's gambling prior to the 2025 season and could face NCAA scrutiny per Matt Hayes of Yahoo. Senior Associate AD Zach Stripe released a statement saying, quote, Cincinnati Athletics has no comment at this time, unquote. The news came out a couple days ago, Ben, or was it yesterday?
Yeah.
That Sorsby was going into treatment for a gambling addiction and that he even bet on stuff going back to when he was at Indiana and he was betting on Indiana when he was on the team. And now your Bearcats might be in
Wrapped
it as
up in
well.
it. That's very tough to get divorced and then still get stuck with the bill.
Would you put it past a college program for overlooking gambling?
Oh, not even remotely. No, in fact, I'm surprised they didn't use this to blackmail him from going to Texas Tech, and I'm not kidding in the slightest. I can't believe some bag carrier wasn't in his ear saying, remember that gambling stuff? I wonder if that'll come out if you go to Texas Tech, do you think? Because I don't think it's going to come out if you stay at Cincinnati. In fact, I know it won't.
There were rumors that they are the ones that leaked it.
Yeah, I think that's totally...
So why did it come out?
Yeah.
Why now? Why did it come out? I guarantee the NCAA didn't want it out.
No, I totally agree. So if you wanted to say Cincinnati was part of it, maybe. But Cincinnati would be then throwing themselves under the bus if they had learned about it.
But he was ahead of it, right? He's the one who announced it?
He's the one who committed himself to rehab, which sometimes is I'm all for people
get
going
ahead
and
of it
fixing their
story.
lives. But yes, a lot of people, if they're going to jail for something, will go to rehab for that exact thing before the sentencing to lighten the sentence. Would I put it past Sorsby being the case? No. I mean, again, it's a 22-year-old. I'm trying to give him some leniency. Other than he just made the one thing he did. He put hot dog on the or ketchup on the hot dog, but that's the one rule you can't do.
I know a lot of situations where coaches have overlooked a lot of stuff. And I'm not here to air dirty laundry, but a lot of stuff you would qualify as really bad.
Yeah, big stuff.
Big stuff that they just overlooked if it doesn't come out publicly. I wonder if Indiana or Cincinnati or whatever was all well aware of it and they just kind of said, shh.
We're not aware of it.
We don't know what you're talking
You're
about.
not aware of it. Well, I hope you familiarize yourself with Drew Mestamaker, who's going to be the, sounds like, new quarterback potentially at Texas Tech. He's transferred there already. He was at North Texas and was transferring in to be the backup. And I don't think we're going to see Sorsby.
Oh, he's not in college.
No, doesn't seem like that's in the cards anymore.
I don't think in the pros either. Maybe I'm wrong because the NFL is pure evil, but I got to think even NFL franchises can't bring that. I mean, it's going to be constant scrutiny no matter what, wherever he goes. Can NFL teams really bring that upon themselves? I mean, they didn't want to have to sign Tim Tebow because they didn't want the onslaught of press.
I admit for myself personally, and I don't think anybody really does for the most part, I don't think anyone really has an understanding of how powerful these gambling companies are. Like, I think it goes way beyond, like, not to get
In what way?
Like, do you think that our government right now wanted to arrest the soldier that bet the money that they were arresting the Venezuelan president? Like, do you think that was news that they wanted to come out? Isn't that something you would normally just want to bury and not have come out? But I do think the gambling companies so badly don't want you to mess with their product and pretend that or potentially reveal that there's inside information that they will force people at the absolute highest levels to change things, whether it's Adam Silver and tanking in basketball or the DOJ and arresting soldiers for betting that they're going to go and arrest somebody. I think they just have power in ways that we probably don't even recognize.
I love the conspiracy nature of that. Here's where I'll kind of agree and disagree with you. I think the government needed to come down hard on this guy regardless, and they needed to do it publicly because I don't know if you've looked into this.
The soldier who was...
Well, no. The mess that's going, like you can bet on the front lines in Russia.
Yeah,
and there was somebody
it's
who was
insane.
manipulating the maps that the poly market was using. I mean, it's like, it's a real problem. It wouldn't surprise me if the government prosecuted this person on purpose and very publicly because these are like... Other soldiers' lives are on the
Absolutely.
line. Like there are literal lives on the line in those circumstances, and there's no way or at least I wouldn't think. There's no way they want any of that happening.
I think that's totally fair.
I wouldn't think. But second of all, if you want to say power, these companies are legal companies that do not want to get defrauded, and I don't blame them. So if they're being defrauded by Michael Porter's brother, they're going to do something about it. And I actually think they're well within their rights to do something about it. But do they have influence to lean on the leagues to do something about it? There's where I'm kind of on the same page with you. But I don't know if that's any more than any other big-time sponsor. You know, if Coca-Cola doesn't like something, can they lean on whoever? I would guess the answer is yes. I don't know. Gambling is more salacious, but I don't know if it's any different than anybody else.
I don't think Pepsi is convincing anybody to change the rules of their sport, and I think gambling can.
But what happened if you showed up with a Coke on the podium
Sure. They took
at
it away
the
or they fined you.
NCAA tournament?
They did. Yeah,
you know what I mean?
They would literally take it away or fine you.
And they're not doing that because
might even cut a broadcast for certain situations.
They're not doing that because they're not scared of Pepsi.
Yeah, they want the money. They definitely want the money.
They want the money. If what is Delta Center? Are they a Coke, Pepsi? They're Coke, right?
Coke, yeah.
Like, you can't have a Pepsi in the Delta Center. And, you know, if Coke called Ryan Smith and said, hey, we want you to, I don't know, we want you to wear your shoes on the wrong feet, he's doing it.
These guys are playing terrible today. What's happening? Coke called. They're doing the lefty-righty
They're
thing.
doing one of those things. They're doing it. So big-time sponsors have big-time leverage.
They have a lot of leverage.
And I don't blame the gambling companies for not wanting to be defrauded.
I just don't think anyone has more money or more leverage than gambling. And that's maybe where it is. It's just the money, but they have more money than anybody.
But if the government is not prosecuting this sort of thing to the fullest extent, then they're really silly because they need to make an example. I mean, a military betting on an invasion?
It's insane.
A military member?
It's
like
sick.
that cannot happen.
It's sick. But anyways, Sorsby. Good luck. We've seen the last of ye.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see many more either.
Yeah.
All right, we've got a 4 o'clock reset coming up right around the corner. Stay tuned at 4:30. Fox NHL writer for Sportsnet, Luke Fox. He doesn't work for Fox.
No,
Sportsnet, Luke Fox is going to be on with us at 4:30, so we'll talk to him about the Mammoth and the Golden Knights. And Sham Charania has some reporting about how to combat tanking.
He's fixed tanking.
We'll get to that coming up next. Stay tuned. It's Jake and Ben, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
The 4 o'clock hour is here.
It's fun time!
And you're locked on to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
I do think AJ Devonta is going to be the first one off the board. I've talked to several teams, and they kind of seem to think that as well. But then when you are 2, 3, and 4, and you're looking at either Darren Peterson, Cameron Boozer, or Caleb Wilson, you cannot go wrong. I don't care what sort of situation you're in. If you get one of those 4 players in this year's draft, that is a win. I don't care. Like, you cannot convince me otherwise. And then 5 through 11, I'm calling it the point guard lottery.
This is Jake and Ben on 97.5. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Little 4 o'clock review right there. We had Krysten Peek on with us in the 3 o'clock hour, and Krysten giving us a breakdown of prospects and talking about AJ Devonta. It certainly feels that way, Ben, that he is, well, how would I put it, has the pole position for the number 1 pick.
He is the biggest. Well, he's not the biggest. Cam Boozer's big, but he's got the best positional size. He had the best individual production. He didn't have the most winning. That was Cam Boozer for sure. But I think his athletic tools, his positional size, his individual production, and his still potential and availability, which is where Darren Peterson really missed out, all favor him. And I think I won't be surprised if, as we get a couple of weeks out, it just becomes a consensus. AJ's number 1, and who's in the running for 2, 3, 4.
Speaking of the NBA, Ben, Sham Charania and his slicked back hair have a report. I'll just read right from it. The NBA has disclosed to its 30 general managers a new anti-tanking draft reform termed the 3-2-1 lottery. That includes expanding the lottery to 16 teams, flattened odds, and a relegation zone where the bottom 3 teams will be penalized with fewer lottery balls for the number 1 pick, starting with the 2027 draft, sources told to ESPN.
I just got to read this a little bit more just to kind of get the information out, and then we can diagnose how badly this is going to fail. The 3-2-1 lottery proposal, named to represent the number of lottery balls per team, would expand the lottery from 14 to 16 teams, as you mentioned. Teams that do not qualify for the playoffs or play in tournament, but stay out of the relegation zone, spots 4 through 10, which the Jazz would be in the, quote, relegation zone right now, would receive 3 lottery balls each. Teams with a bottom 3 record, a.k.a. the relegation area, would have just 2 lottery balls, but have a floor of the 12th pick, while the rest of the 13 lottery teams could fall as far as the 16th pick. The 9th and 10th play-in seeds, each in each conference, receive 2 lottery balls, while each of the losers of the 7 to 8 play-in receive 1 lottery ball each. So do we understand teams 4 through 8, how many lottery balls they actually get?
No, that didn't make any sense.
Yeah, is it 4 through 8? So if you're one of the 3 worst teams in the NBA, you get fewer lottery balls to encourage or to discourage teams from absolutely falling to the bottom the way the Jazz did last year, the way the Wizards did last year, right? He's saying these teams with a bottom 3 record, the relegation area, would have just 2 lottery balls. But it seems like everybody else in the lottery from 4 to 10, if I'm reading this right, would have 3 lottery balls. And then if you're outside of that, 11 to 16, you would get 1 lottery ball?
The middle, but what's the relegation zone? The bottom or the middle?
Yeah, why
that
did the
doesn't make
middle
any
be
sense.
the relegation zone?
Yeah. Saying that this is, I think the hair gel has gotten into Sham's brain. It says teams that do not qualify for the playoffs or play in tournament but stay out of the relegation zone spots 4 through 10. That doesn't make any sense. So what's the bottom? Thought the bottom was the relegation zone that are losing 2.
Teams that don't qualify for the playoffs or play in tournament but stay out of the relegation zone, which is 4 through 10. So this means teams 1 through 3 and teams 11 through 16 would receive 3 lottery balls each. Teams with a bottom 3 record, which he then calls the relegation area. Yeah, he just wrote this poorly. This has not been edited very well because nobody knows what's going on here, which is, I think, what we predicted. And I mean this honestly, like this writing is incorrect. He contradicts himself within this area because at one point he says stay out of the relegation zone, spots 4 through 10.
He's saying the spots 4 through 10 are the teams that
are
don't
outside
qualify
of the relegation zone. Oh,
right.
okay.
That's not how he wrote it.
That's
and
not
by
how
the
it
way,
works. Okay.
It is incredibly confusing. You kind of have to read it out loud.
I just did several times. It didn't make any sense.
He reported this like 10 minutes ago, so this is like hot off the press.
Teams that do not qualify for the playoffs or teams that stay out of the relegation zone. So what he's meaning is those are teams 4 through 10. They are not in the relegation zone.
Okay.
The way he wrote it makes it sound like they are in the relegation zone. Mm-hmm. Relegation will now be 1, 2, and 3. Teams in the relegation zone only get 2 lottery balls. So if you have one of the 3 worst records in the NBA, so if we pull this up right now, I'll pull up Tankathon right in front of me. And
it's the Wizards, the Pacers,
and the Brooklyn Nets. They would have 2 lottery balls each. The Jazz at 4 through 10, which I think is the Bucks, would all have 3 lottery balls. And then teams 11 through 16, which would be the Warriors, the Clippers, the Heat, the Hornets, the Trailblazers, and the Suns, would all have 1 lottery ball, which is fewer than the top 3 teams. In fact, it's half as many. But it's a third as many as teams not in the relegation zone, which is obviously teams 4 through 10. So ideally, the relegation zone, is teams 1 through 3. The non-relegation zone teams 4 through 10 is now the sweet spot of the NBA.
So lose on purpose, but not too much.
But in this situation, the Jazz would have been would have been fine finishing with as many wins as the Milwaukee Bucks. And I think Milwaukee, let me pull up the standings, finished with over 30 wins. So the Jazz could have gone from 22 wins to what the Milwaukee Bucks had, which was 32 wins, which is a 10-game difference. And I certainly remember hearing people every Saturday when I went out on the town saying, I can't wait to watch Milwaukee Bucks basketball this weekend. That 29-win team has the type of talent I'm looking to tune into on a nightly basis.
Okay, this is way too convoluted, which I kind of find hilarious. But the structural problems of this cat in the wall that we were talking about yesterday still remain. Now you're going to have teams tanking to get out of the playoffs and out of the play-in. So now instead of the bottom of the league that nobody cares about losing games on purpose, you're going to have the middle of the league losing games on purpose. But the bottom of the league is going to try like heck to win at least a couple more games in February, so you got that going for you. But you'd have teams like the Bucs losing all sorts of games or pulling the plug in February because they don't want to make the playoffs. It's just silly. You're just changing the teams that tank. You're not fixing anything. You're just changing the teams that lose on purpose.
Respectfully, I wish you would refer to these teams as relegation zones or non-relegation zones, but I will let that pass for now. No, you're exactly right. This is exactly what we said was going to happen yesterday. And in fact, it's maybe even more egregious than I thought. Because, Jake, let me ask you this. If you have a chance to win Victor Wembanyama, and the most lottery balls you can get is 3, how many lottery balls do you want to have? 3. Now, if you're at number 10 and you're the Milwaukee Bucks, you have 3. And if you're at number 11 and you're the Golden State Warriors, you have 1. So tell me what your strategy is to improve your odds of getting Victor Wembanyama.
Booting games.
Lose.
Yep.
Now, who's losing?
The middle of the league.
The Warriors.
Instead of the
bottom.
bottom.
The Clippers, the Heat, the Hornets, and the Blazers and Suns. So they all want to lose to triple their odds of getting 3 lottery balls as opposed to just 1.
So they'll get to 30 wins and then just stop.
So these middle-class teams, or worse yet, you're going to have teams saying, we have to start tanking at the beginning of the season because once we get to that 11 to 16 range, we're never going to catch up to any of the teams that are at 10 because they've been tanking all year long to make sure that they have one of the bottom 10 spots, but not tanking so badly that they have a relegation zone bottom 3 record. So you're going to have a bunch of teams saying, we'll win 1 out of every 4 games, and we're going to have the best odds that exist in the NBA to go draft a player. And now it's only going to be 8% or whatever. We can do the math here of 6 teams having 3%. We'd have to look at how many total lottery balls there are. But essentially, yes, you have flipped who's tanking. And I think there's a real argument that this is going to make it worse because the middle-class tanking means far fewer good teams because, as I was just joking, also, Adam Silver, nobody wanted to watch the Milwaukee Bucks or the Chicago Bulls or the New Orleans Pelicans or the Memphis Grizzlies or the Utah Jazz or the Sacramento Kings play this year. Nobody wanted to watch them. No casual fan would ever tune into one of their games. And those are the non-relegation teams who you're rewarding.
It's like any good cat in the wall. It makes the situation worse. That's the whole. That's the whole point
cat
of the.
In the wall,
yes,
what?
That's the saying. You are not only did it not fix the problem, but you actually have another cat in your wall. And in fact, it's conflicting with the play-in cat that is now kind of irrelevant.
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course it's irrelevant because that was just a
stupid one.
Alternate to something totally different.
Yeah.
So let me see here. 6 teams get 3 balls each. That's 18 balls.
So do you think they're hoping that teams
ball.
like the Jazz or the Wizards next year would want to be a play-in team? Because the Jazz or the Wizards theoretically aren't going to want to be bad forever. They're going to have to take a step forward at some point, right?
Well, that's the problem
I think that's
with this.
what Adam Silver is thinking is that's who the play-in teams will be, is these teams exiting rebuilds.
I guess.
But that's the problem altogether, is that tanking served a purpose, and it wasn't tanking to tank. It was tanking to stop sucking. You tanked to get good players so you could stop tanking. When you stop rewarding teams for being bad and allowing themselves to get out, you're going to have teams that can truly never get out of the basement. The tanking thing stunk, don't get me wrong, but there was an actual way to get out of it by getting a couple of good players in back-to-back drafts and then not continuing to be at the bottom of the NBA. Tanking worked, which is why people did it, but not every team tanked every single year, and so your individual local fan base could divert after a couple of seasons the same way the Jazz were already planning their exit this year, regardless of the rules that Adam Silver made. There are going to be a total of 30 draft balls, 18 teams for the non-relegation zone teams, that's 6 through 10, if I'm reading this correctly in the 3-2-1 proposal. 6 teams, 11 through 16, each get 1 ball, so that's 6. 6 plus 18 is 24. And then the bottom 3 teams each get 2 balls, if I'm reading this correctly. So that's another 6. So there's 30 balls total. So if you get one of the 3, the teams 4 through 10 each have a 10% chance of winning the lottery. Number 1 overall. Teams that have only 2 lottery balls have what? What's 2 divided by, or 30? 2 divided by 30, I don't know exactly what that number is. 0.6? Yes, 0.6% chance, or a 6% chance. And then if you have a 1%, you have a 3% chance. So that's about how it works. 4 through 6 has a 10% chance of winning the lottery, which, by the way, is exactly where the Jazz are right now. They have a 10% chance of winning the draft lottery today. Worst 3 teams in the NBA only have a 6% chance, and then the better teams, non-playoff teams, have a 3% chance. It's not going to fix anything. It's going to make the middle class. It's going to kill the middle class of the NBA, which I think is already the problem, and they need to make that better. And they're doing the opposite. And then what will make it, I guess, more interesting for 45 minutes, but who cares, is that the entire lottery will be determined 1 through 16. Because the teams actually that have only a 6% chance, which are relegation zone teams, follow me here, teams 1 through 3, worst records in the NBA, can only fall to 12, I believe, is the suggestion that Shams outlined here. So you do have a backstop, while the Jazz conceivably could have the 4th worst record in the NBA and could fall to 16.
Yeah, I agree, man. This is really dumb.
It's a lot.
It's really dumb.
It's a lot of cats.
Honestly, they really should just get rid of the draft. Just develop your own players. I liked our idea we came up with on bid for draft picks, but nobody seems to be considering. Nobody apparently listens to the Jake and Ben show. Because we thought, hey, why not put them up for bid? Put them up for auction. And that money goes against your cap. So if you want the first pick, if you've got Victor Wembanyama, well, you better have $20 million in cap room to bid on the pick.
I also heard another format that's very similar to that, which is if you have the worst record in the NBA, you get, let's say $30 million, but you can bid on any pick in the draft 1 through 30. So if you say, hey, 1 actually isn't going to do it for me, I don't want to spend $30 million, but can I buy the 5th pick and the 12th pick for my $30 million combined? Good. I got 2 picks in the first round. And then some draft team or some team that says, hey, we actually want the salary cap space. We'll take your money. And we'll use that to put towards an actual established player. I thought that was kind of interesting as well. So, yeah, this option to fix tanking is just going to cause teams to want to get into that 4 through 10 spot, which, again, the problem is nobody wants to watch teams in the 4 through 10 spot. Mm-hmm. That's still really bad basketball. But it's going to be the prized position now in the NBA is to sit 4 through 10 because you have a 10% chance of winning the lottery.
Adam Silver has made a comment to Shams.
Okay.
Let's see here. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver on a recent competition committee call, according to sources, quote, we should have a system where you should hate to lose. It shouldn't be a badge of honor. Losing should be uncomfortable, unquote. Well, I don't think this accomplishes that.
Yeah. At all. Nope.
No, now you just have, it's different teams losing.
No, honestly, if you're going to do this, just do the lottery for all 30 teams. I'm not kidding. Everyone gets 3%, and then you can't win the top 3 picks in back-to-back years. That way you don't end up randomly getting a champion who gets Victor Wembanyama and then the next year gets Cooper Flagg or whatever. I know they didn't go back-to-back, but whatever. Just that way. That's fine. If you want to have parity, and that's how you think to do it, you can't have back-to-back top 5 picks. Everyone gets 3%. Great. Then the best you can do if you win the lottery is drop to 6. That's fine. Whatever. But this is not fixing anything. And what you would actually do if you make it so only teams have a 3% chance, and by the way, this does hurt the Jazz. No question about it. This would hurt teams. Tanking is a good small market tool to get star-level players, but it just totally forces your front office to try and do better work acquiring talent through trades and through free agency versus just relying solely on the draft, which is why tanking is such an issue right now.
NHL writer for Sportsnet, Luke Fox, is going to jump on with us to talk some Stanley Cup playoffs. We're going to do that coming up next. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Not only do these guys give you the best Jazz coverage in the market, wow, they've got you covered with the Mammoth, the Cougars, the Utes, and the Aggies. This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jacob Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It's time to talk some Stanley Cup playoffs and some Utah Mammoth. Let's get out to the zone phone. He covers the NHL for Sportsnet. He's Luke Fox with us here on Jake and Ben. Hi, Luke. How are you?
Hi, Luke.
I'm doing well. A little tired because I've been sucked in by the Stanley Cup playoffs, and I'm on Eastern Standard Time, but I can't help myself. I end up staying up late and watching every single game on the West Coast, even if it goes into overtime or threatens double overtime like last night.
Yeah, so what do you think of this series so far? Give us maybe a big picture perspective of a national or maybe even international view of how the Mammoth and Golden Knights are looking.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's fast. high octane series, a little bit of controversy, but the guys are playing hard, like they're checking hard, but it hasn't got into the antics that some of the other series have gotten into. It's just really fun hockey. And I think one of the things that I've been impressed most by, and I'm not surprised by it, because I went to the Delta Center twice, once this year and once last year for a game. And I love how, it's built for basketball, but the way it's built is the crowd is almost on top of the ice. And I was talking to some of the players, and they felt like it's a really unique atmosphere in that way, in that the crowd seems to almost have more of an impact in the energy of the building than in some of the other places. So I've loved being able to watch that, and it comes through on the broadcast, just the energy of the building, the fact that this franchise is getting to host its first playoff games, I think has been phenomenal. And the fact that they got treated to a win the first game and a really tight, exciting game last night with a thrilling comeback. Playoffs is so tight that usually once a team goes up 3-0, they lock it down, especially a veteran team like Vegas. So the fact that Utah came back and made it such an exciting game, pushed it to overtime, it was a banger. It was fun. It's been great hockey, and honestly, I picked the Mammoth for an upset. But I honestly think you could flip a coin here because these teams seem evenly matched.
Luke, with the Mammoth, obviously moving here recently, I admit that I am still getting to know a lot of the nuance with the NHL. And with this matchup, it appears that Golden State is a real physical, the physical reputation uses physicality, whereas the Mammoth have kind of leaned into speed. So which is usually an effective strategy in the playoffs, or what usually comes down to determine who comes out on top between teams that have such different styles?
Yeah, and it really in the playoffs, it does become almost like, they say that about boxing, right? Like styles make fights. And because the two teams play a best of 7 and see each other night after night, and the coaches make adjustments based on what the other team is doing, styles really come into play. I can't sit here and say, speed always trumps physicality or vice versa. You actually, in my mind, you need a bit of both. I'll give you an example. The Carolina Hurricanes have long been a very fast team, and they've always made the playoffs, and they have this reputation for winning a couple rounds. But then ultimately, they, take last year, for example, they ran into a team that's pretty fast but is way more physical in the Florida Panthers, and they made very quick work of them. So you almost need a blend of everything. You need some skill, you need some grit, you need some speed, you need some toughness. And in my mind, that's what makes hockey such a fun sport. It's also, I find it to be a blend of, skill and luck, just because you're playing with a frozen puck on ice, and you guys have watched a puck will hit the post. Imagine if that was 2 inches the other way, or a guy high sticks a guy by accident. What if it misses the face? Then you don't have a power play. So there's an element of flukiness to hockey that makes it unpredictable, but I think it adds to the drama of it all, and makes it a harder to predict sport than maybe some of the others. I think if you were to take an analyst who watches NBA, he'd probably hit on more of his first round predictions than a hockey analyst would, because of that mystery element to it.
So, Luke, looking at the Mammoth, what storylines are you pulling out? Because I looked late in the season, and it started to feel like Logan Cooley was becoming the face of the team. And obviously with Keller going to the Olympics, he had a lot of run, but the production late, and then the first few games, I thought he was the best player on the ice. That was my perspective. But are you seeing anything that's kind of maybe changing the perspective of the Mammoth?
Well, the goalie duel is interesting to me, because Vegas has struggled to find its starter due to injury, and Carter Hart was kind of a late signing. He's been out of the league. He's been battling some legal troubles, and he's kind of a mystery box. Ironically, he actually played under John Tortorella, the Golden Knights coach that they just hired with a week to go in the regular season, which was wild. So they have some familiarity there, and he trusts him. But Vejmelka I'm a big fan of his, and he's always had really solid regular seasons. And, if the Mammoth or previously the Coyotes came up short, no one said, "Oh, it was because of Vamelka." He actually kept them in a lot of games. But this is his first time, seeing the big stage and getting tested in the playoffs, and it's a whole different animal. So the goaltending duel is kind of an interesting one to me. The other one is Dylan Guenther. I mean, this guy can shoot a puck. Like, holy cow. And he's so young. And, the fact that that they have him for years and years, I think is very exciting for Salt Lake City. And you always wonder about young guys, like, will the lights be a little bit too bright for them? And I would say it hasn't been. And I would say same thing with, some of the young Anaheim Ducks who are getting their first taste of playoff action. And, if Utah is to survive, that's the team they might face next, because they're up on the Edmonton Oilers, and that series goes again tonight.
What did you think about Vegas canning their coach with 2 weeks to go and hiring Tortorella? Bold move or kind of wacky?
Yeah, it was bold. It was bold. You rarely see it, especially when they were in playoff position when they did it. And it just speaks to the urgency of that franchise, and I think it's a little bit on brand. They've always been kind of ruthless in how they conduct their business, whether it's a high-end free agent that becomes available. They'll find a way to get that guy, even if it means shipping other guys out who've been, long-standing Golden Knights. I think of Marc-Andre Fleury was one of the original Golden Knights, and he was like an icon there. You'd see Fleury sweaters everywhere. But once things soured, they didn't waste any time trading him away, getting rid of him. Riley Smith was an original Golden Knight. They got rid of him. They brought him back just recently. They kind of do anything at all costs to win. And I think if you're a fan of a team, you got to admire that to some respect. But Bruce Cassidy, the guy that they fired to bring in Tortorella, is a heck of a coach. And he's going to be the most valuable free agent coach on the market this summer. And I have no doubt he'll have a choice of a handful of teams to pick where he lands, because he's going to be very valuable, especially now that Peter DeBoer, who was a free agent, got snapped up by the Islanders right at the end of the regular season.
Looking big picture around the NHL, what trends are you seeing that are winning? And are these different trends? Is this a new style of hockey, or are we seeing a revolution of any kind, of like where the sport is headed, how things are changing?
It's becoming higher scoring. I would say that. Save percentages as a whole are on the decline, and they have been for, I think it's like about 6 years gradually. But this year, the league save percentage was below 900, which was a bit of a shocker. I never quite thought we'd get to that rate. But shots are down. So one of the big trends is teams are being more selective, not just throwing any puck at the net. They're trying to get the better scoring chance. But the shooters have gotten better than the goalies of late. That's one trend. And I also think there's a youth movement afoot. And part of that's in Utah, part of that's in Anaheim. Montreal on the Eastern Conference side of the bracket is a young, exciting team. Philly has the lead on a veteran team like Pittsburgh, who has legends in Letang and Malkin and Crosby. And the Flyers are young and inexperienced, but they're fast and they're hungry and they're skilled. So I think that's a major trend. For years and years, the NHL was really big on, you got to be playoff hardened. You have to have experience. The old guys know the ways. And there seems to be a turning of the corner. Today you look, the Ted Lindsay Award goes to the best player as voted by his peers, and Macklin Celebrini, a teenager, was among those names. And it just goes to show you that the young stars are kind of taking over here.
The Avalanche smoked the Kings. Is it the Avalanche's conference to lose?
It is. It is. Making quick work of your opponent in round one is really critical in hockey, more so than basketball or baseball, in my opinion, just because it is such a physical sport. So they get a bunch of extra days for their bruises to heal, to start strategizing about and watching the Wild and the Stars. So the winner of that series is who they'll get. So they get the benefit of rest, which is so hard to come by in hockey, especially this season, because the schedule was truncated because of the Olympics. So teams were playing almost every other day. So the fact that they're going to have nearly a week off before their next round just benefits them all the more. And plus, they check all the boxes, right? They have high-end game breakers up front, like Gabriel Landeskog and Martin Necas and Nathan McKinnon. They have, for my money, the best defenseman in the world in Cale Makar. And their goalies, were a question mark coming into the season. Mackenzie Blackwood and Scott Wedgwood, but they've been excellent this year. They won the Jennings Trophy for fewest goals allowed. So they kind of have a little bit of everything. And they're not too far removed from lifting the big trophy at the end. That was 2022. So they know what it takes. So I absolutely think they're the favorites. But like we talked about before, it's a wild sport. There's other teams that will build confidence as the tournament goes deeper. So it's no guarantee.
So, Luke, Florida wins the Stanley Cup in back-to-back years, misses the playoffs this season. How common is continuity from year to year as far as who's in the playoffs, who's expected to be back? Winnipeg had such a great season last year and struggled this year. So should we expect these teams that are here this year, especially at the top, to be back next season?
You should expect a good chunk of them. This year was unusual in terms of turnover. I want to say there was 6 or 7 teams that made the playoffs this year that didn't last year, and that was high. But there's always some. There's always like 3 or 4. It's not, hockey I find is very cyclical, and part of that is by design through the salary cap and guys just aging out or teams running out of money and resources to keep their good guys, so they go back into the system. And then the draft, the draft and develop model is so huge in the sport that, if you're near the bottom for a while, which is what the Coyotes were before they became the Mammoth, you accrue lots of picks and prospects, and hopefully you develop a young core that grows up together and gets good together. And we're seeing a little bit of that in Utah. We're definitely seeing that in Montreal and in Anaheim. And those teams should be good for 6-7 years. It seems like a cycle, but eventually you reach the mountaintop and then you come crashing down. Like the Chicago Blackhawks were a force in the 2010s. They were the standard of the league. And right now they're on one of the longest droughts. So they're on the bottom half of the cycle, and they're rebuilding around Connor Bedard, who is their superstar, their version of Macklin Celebrini. But they're hopefully on the rise. And it is very cyclical like that. But, if you have a young, good team, there's a good chance it's going to stay relevant for a half decade at least.
Hey, Luke, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. And, hopefully you won't mind if we bug you again throughout the playoffs.
No, not at all. And enjoy the ride, guys. It looks like quite a scene. I'm a little bit jealous that I haven't been able to see one of those games in person, but I'm hitting the road soon. And the deeper the Mammoth go, the better chance I'm going to be able to experience Mammoth playoff hockey in person.
Ben and I broadcast from the plaza outside of the arena on Friday. We got chased off yesterday by some rain, but I mean it was a party.
4 hours before the game.
4 hours.
Full.
Yeah, it was wild. So if you get a chance, Luke, come on out and see us. And hey, we'll put you in studio.
Okay. Can I ride the Mammoth?
Oh, dude, we can work that out. Ben's connected. He's dialed in. We can make that happen.
At the very least, I've got like an old pickup truck. You can roll around town.
We can fake it.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Luke.
All right. Take care, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, Luke.
Luke Fox, NHL writer for Sportsnet.
Like that?
Thank you, Christian. Had to catch up on that.
But yeah.
We'll have to remember Luke. He was really good.
Really good.
That was super good info.
And a good sign, Mammoth, I don't want to say squeaked in. They made the wild card, and they were the top wild card spot, but he says, you make the playoffs and you've got a good young core, the odds of you sticking around are pretty good in the NHL. So that's, as we talked about this, I'm sure we'll talk about it more at 5 o'clock. This is all a part of the process. This is the build. This is getting back to relevancy and getting back to being a team that ideally, if you're a fan, can compete at the highest level. And this is just part of that process. But you're young and you're well situated to be around.
Coming up next, we have the Audio Vault. And, man, I think we've got a good one today.
Okay.
I think we've got a good one today. You and I are both radio bozos, and we both, I think I can speak for you on this, enjoy a good radio bozo meltdown.
Yes. And you and I both also have insufferable egos, but maybe not quite as much as the next guy.
Who I actually kind of know.
Okay.
So we'll get to that coming up next. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
No crazy soundbite slips past these guys.
Oh, my God, thank you.
This is another edition of the Audio Vault with Jake and Ben on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. See this, Def Leppard photograph. This is a great tune.
Okay. Rossini, real taste.
Turning the page. I think if I had to guess, this is one of the ones Vrabel played at practice.
Quickly, before we get to the Audio Vault, speaking of Rossini, do you have like text language with your wife? Do you have words that you use in text that you like spell differently on purpose? You wouldn't.
Look
normally?
who you're talking to. No.
Okay. So like my wife, when she texts me, and because she does this, I respond. I text her THO for though instead of THOUGH. I always feel a little silly about it, and I don't do that to anybody else. Like if I text you, I won't say though. Or Christian, I won't say though, TOH. I'll say the whole thing. Embarrassing to call a playlist running or turning the page and not taking the G off?
Embarrassing?
I'm a little corny. It's a little corny. I'm a little embarrassed for Diana. Of all of this, leaving the G off of turning the page is up there for the most embarrassing things that she's
I think it's more embarrassing. She put Lotto on it. Lotto, by the way, because you guys don't know, I'm sure a lot of our listeners probably don't know Lotto. She's like a rapper, like my generation, female rapper. So I think it's a little weird that Diana Rossini listens to Lotto.
Is into Lotto.
We're not talking about the silk soccer shorts, Lotto. You know, are those still a thing? You know what I'm talking about?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Really? You never had a pair of Lottos growing up? The soccer shorts? LOTTO?
I'm looking them up right now.
Like
no, I'm only getting photos of this rapper.
Oh yeah,
shorts.
no, they were like your quintessential like.
Whoa!
IT, no.
Okay, I see it.
They're like your short soccer shorts, Lottos.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but no, I never had them.
No, never. All right. Time for the Audio Vault. The best sound of the day, and this one I think is great. Frank Isola covers. He made his living or made his name covering the Knicks for the New York Daily News, but he has expanded. It does have somewhat of a national footprint. He has a show with Brian Scalabrine on Sirius XM Radio on their NBA channel. Now, I am not a Sirius subscriber, Ben.
Mm-hmm.
Free radio is the best radio as far as I'm concerned.
Totally with you.
I find it blasphemous to even talk about paid radio. Shame on you. But Frank does have a show. And apparently they're launching a new show on NBA radio, and it's bumping Frank an hour. And Frank is not pleased.
The first place to talk hoops is on the starting lineup with Frank Isola and Brian Scalabrine.
All right, the Kenny Beecham Hour with Kenny Beecham, aptly named. God forbid we name it the Frank Isola, Brian Scalabrine Show, but we've only been doing the show here for about how many years now, Brian? 15. When you walk in first day, they're going to name a show after you. Debuting today at noon Eastern on NBA Radio Channel 86 and the SiriusXM app. And whoever did the read, and Warren wanted me to read this, Brian, he wanted me to write that Mondays just got better, which means our show, they'll be taking an hour off our show. And Warren wants me to write that Mondays just got better because now an hour of our show will be cut.
Can I just tell you one thing? Right now, you need to calm down. just trust me on this one. Just calm down.
Give me a break.
Break.
Let me ask you a question. Nationally, who's got a bigger name? Brian Scalabrine or Kevin Beecham? Kenny Beecham.
Kenny Beecham.
Who's got a bigger name, me or him?
Kenny Beecham.
Bull.
Frank.
He does PTI? I don't want to hear about Twitter. People buy followers.
Warren, don't just remember. I've told Frank just to go, man. Chill.
Who is he? Who is he? He's taking an hour of our show. Warren wants me to write that. It just got better. That we're not going to have an hour of our show.
All right.
Who is he?
Well, I will say this. We are the starting lineup. It does seem like at this point it should be our show, right?
Yeah. And, well, how about if you have a new person show up and like he preempts our show and he gets an hour of our show and they name the show after him.
What, you want to get him on air? You want to ask him?
Are you crazy?
Hey, by the way, these afternoons just got a whole lot better, huh?
I love it that he's mad at the read, at the promo read, because it's an insult to him.
Afternoons just got a whole lot better. Huh? What?
Who's got a bigger name?
These afternoons just got a whole lot better, huh?
Who's got a bigger name, me or Kevin Beecham?
Yeah.
Kenny Beecham?
By the way, let me pull up Frank Isola here because he actually might. No, I don't think he has a point. I mean,
did he host PTI?
And I get this a lot. I get a lot of questions from like young media members or people want to get into media and figure out like what to do. I'm like, get on social media, build up your following, Instagram, Twitter. And Twitter's hard to do it now, Instagram, whatever. Kenny Beecham, who admittedly I don't know who Kenny Beecham is. I don't follow him. He is a basketball guy. He has 590,000 followers. Like, here's the thing. He brings an audience with him wherever he goes. There's a ton of value in that. Frank Isola, who has been around my whole life, only has 163,000 followers. Now, that is not the entire job by any means. I'm not pretending it is. But if you want to know why Kenny Beecham has the attention of the people at SiriusXM Radio, it's because he has an enormous reach because he has 590,000 followers. And I bet he could have more on Instagram. So, Frank, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, you're right. He's never done PTI.
You're really mad at Frank here.
Well, Frank's totally wrong.
Well, I just think it's funny Frank's spinning out.
Frank's he's
you're
totally
really
off.
upset at Frank.
No, but Frank's
I think it's funny they're making Frank do the read.
That's the best part.
Because nobody has sympathy for Frank. Because apparently nobody likes Frank. You know him a little?
He used to come on the show all the time, and then I met him once.
And he's like a New York guy. This is the attitude that New York guys bring. I do have an understanding, and I've personally been through this before. My first show, my name was not on it for a very long time, and it is not great for you if you don't have your name on the show. Now everybody does know who Frank Isola and Brian Scalabrine is. Brian Scalabrine being the voice of reason here, by the way, really bad sign. Because that guy is never the voice of reason. And the Celtics broadcast is almost unlistenable at times because of Brian. But if he's the guy who's got the calmer head, the cooler head here prevailing, that's a really bad sign for the starting lineup. Is that what they call it?
Still mad at Frank. I actually liked Frank. He was very nice to me.
No, I think Frank's totally good. And a fine writer. I've certainly read him a lot covering the Knicks.
Just for the record. But you know what? Eating unpopular decisions is a big part of this job, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. I've had to eat some Whoppers over the years.
And you've welcomed in people and had a bite taken out of something you've been doing that you probably didn't think was going to work or knew wasn't going to work. And sometimes you say, well, we're going to try it. You've let me try a lot of things on this show that don't work, and I appreciate that.
I'm all about trying. I'm all about swings and misses. But, yeah, you have to eat some bad decisions. That's why I'm so happy I'm not Salazar. Having been a program director, half that job is just taking a bad decision from upstairs and bringing it downstairs. Or at least that was my experience. I haven't been a PD at this company. I actually seems much, much better.
Frank Isola, trying to see if he even has an Instagram page, which I know this is not going to resonate with a lot of people. But everyone's trying to figure out, okay, here's the difference. Everyone's trying to figure out how the next generation of listeners, media consumers are going to be found. And the best answer we have so far right now is probably Instagram. Frank Isola has 4,300 followers. Kenny Beecham has 210,000 followers. With those followers, you get reels, you make money. It's honestly, it's not that difficult to figure out how to do. That's why Kenny Beecham has this job. There's no question about it.
I don't like the followers thing. I really don't. It's all about content. Who has better content? Frank.
I wish that was true.
Frank, in his defense, it is true. Frank, if you're talking about radio, if you're talking about producing content, you've never even heard of Kevin Beecham. And who cares how many followers he has? You're dialed into the NBA. His content can't be that good. It hasn't penetrated your not ethos. That's not the right word. Penetrated your
galaxy environment,
whatever.
Yeah,
right.
That's the word I'm looking for.
But Frank Isola, you've known who that guy is since you were 13. So is Frank and Brian doing a good radio show? That's what it matters. Producing content. I mean, you can do all sorts of manipulations and games to build followers and do all that stuff.
But it's so heavily monetized now that the company that gets to make money off of his social media posts, which is what is going to be happening with SiriusXM Radio, they're going to value that more than, oh, well, I really like this 4 o'clock segment. I wish that wasn't the case, but that's what we're going for now. That's what everybody's going for in this biz. And that's exactly what SiriusXM Radio is telling Frank, and he doesn't see it.
Hey, by the way, these afternoons just got a whole lot better, huh?
Yeah, you can keep your Insta talk, whatever.
Hey.
Measurements.
I'm with
different
you.
Audiences.
It is different audiences.
Entirely different audiences.
Totally
and then
different
speaking
audiences.
of stuff
You're
I've
not
battled
wrong.
throughout my career, like people think that online and social media can replace all this stuff. And it's like, no, it's different people. Like
No, it can't.
what percentage of our audience, which is mainly males, age 25 to 65, what percentage do you think are actually active on a social media platform? I bet it's way lower than you'd think.
Oh, I bet it's way higher than you think.
Oh, I bet it's way lower. How many do you know? I know a lot of people that have like a personal Facebook or a personal Instagram, but calling them active?
Check daily? I bet it's most.
I don't know.
I bet most of our listeners check Instagram daily. It's become that important. And then as you're vying for the next generation of people, it's going to be everybody. I think that's why this battle's existing right now.
All right, stay tuned. We've got Live at 5:05 coming up next. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Live at 5 on Jake and Ben. It's brought to you by Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan today, your local trusted financial fiduciary. Call 1-855-TRAJAN-1 or visit their website at TrajanWealth.com. Ben, the latest story at KSLSports.com was posted a mere 1 minute ago, believe it or not. Headline, early look at BYU football's top prospects for a 2027 NFL draft. Mitch has that up there for you BYU fans. Just posted that a minute ago. The biggest story of the day, Ben, the Utah Mammoth. They drop an overtime game to the Golden Knights of Vegas. They now go back to Vegas for a Wednesday night Game 5 against the Golden Knights. And it was a wild game, Ben. Ups, downs, what have yous. Vegas takes a big lead early. The Mammoth comes storming back and then just gave way a little bit in overtime.
Where do you fall on this? Is this I don't want to say inspiring. That's the wrong word. Are you glass half full or glass half empty on this performance last night from the Mammoth? Because I think there are two ways to look at it. There's the team that came out totally flat, fell behind 3-0 at home, then didn't show up in overtime. I didn't feel like. Now it almost went to double OT, so clearly the defense was doing something right and Veg was doing something right, but didn't find a way to get the win. And those are bad. Ideally, that's where you would like to be, maybe have a little bit of advantage. You're playing at altitude. Maybe the other team's tired. You've been sleeping in your own bed. You should feel better about that, et cetera, et cetera. And then you come out. You should be juiced to be playing at home. They didn't do either of those things. Fell behind 3-0 and lost the game ultimately. On the other hand, this is clearly a team that has great resolve because they battled back and actually briefly took a 4-3 lead.
Can I say neither?
Okay.
I think that this series is obviously fairly evenly matched. I mean, it's been competitive. Every game has been competitive. I wouldn't expect Game 5 to be any different. I think maybe if they would have just packed it in and lost 4-0 and not responded, I mean, maybe you could read into that a little bit more. But how do you, positive or negative, if you're looking at it from a Mammoth perspective, I don't know how you could read into it either way. They adjusted and they used their speed, which they have at times during this series, and they got overwhelmed, which has happened at times during this series. I couldn't tell you which is going to happen in Game 5. Could easily be either one, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, it could be 4-2. It could be 5-1. It could be double overtime.
I mean, if you really want to, project onto the team things that, I don't know, you could say their overtime performance was because they expended so much energy battling back from 4-0, they just simply ran out of gas. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or did the puck bounce the wrong way?
Yep.
I mean, one of the goals last night, it was because the puck stood up on its end, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah, no, absolutely.
I mean, that's getting to know this sport is pretty wild, because what do you read into that?
I think
they couldn't handle the big moment, or I keep coming back to the Golden Knights made plays. The Golden Knights responded, and they made plays last night, and they maybe got a little comfortable when they were up 4-0 and let the Mammoth back in it. But it's a reminder that just because the Mammoth beat them in Game 3 and made 4 out of 12 shots doesn't mean that the Golden Knights sucked.
No, I think my takeaway, and to your point, I think if you were to zoom out and look at the entirety of the 4 games so far, I actually think Vegas has been in more control than the Mammoth have. Both ozone control, which we know the math says that is, the actual analytics say that they are, but actually like consistency with their passing, I would guessing pass success rate, fewer giveaways. I think that's been pretty clear and pretty obvious. I think that showed up last night, but at the same time, I also think these teams are just extraordinarily evenly matched, which is why we are tied at 2-2 between these two teams.
Yeah, they're just different styles.
Different styles, but very, very similar, maybe top-tier talent or upside when they're playing at their best. I
thought the point you made earlier was probably the right one, is if the Mammoth could get every player on the, not every player, I guess, but the majority of their team on the same, this playing well at the same time, that could be a difference maker for the Mammoth. But so far, we haven't seen that really. We've seen the top line really suck in the first 2 games. We saw them respond. Lawson Krause had 2 goals in game number 3, and they got a little bit better. And then
and they were good last night.
But the Cooley line sucked.
Yeah, the second line disappeared.
Right. And, I don't think it's fair to put that much pressure on Veggie because he was that good in game 3, but he wasn't as good in game 4.
Agreed.
If they can get everybody on the same page, I think that would make a huge difference. But again, getting to know hockey, how hard is that?
Yeah, do only a couple of teams do that most nights?
Right.
And is that just the Avalanche and is that just the Hurricanes
Because that has to do, coming back to the Golden Knights, that has to do some with the Golden Knights, right? Tortorella got tired of Cooley making him look dumb, so he switches it up.
Yeah.
Switches it up to specifically combat what is working for the Mammoth. And it's what do you do first? What do you stop first? It's the old Michael Jordan strategy with Jerry Sloan in the finals. Do you double Jordan and make somebody else beat you, or do you try to have Brian Russell guard Jordan straight up so you can take the rest of the team out? I mean, it's strange how those little lessons apply to every sport, but what does the other team take away from you, and how do you respond?
One of the takeaways has been the play of J.J. Peterka, who has not played particularly well. And then Coach Bear today, Cole Bagley has the audio up on his Twitter account if you want to hear it. But basically he said that J.J. Peterka is not playing well enough, and that's why he did not play in overtime. He was on that third line with Carcone and Kerfoot and was benched, and you didn't see him in OT.
What do you think about that? Because that doesn't really happen in the NBA. Because if you're in a playoff series and Carlos Boozer is having a bad playoff series, not that J.J. Peterka is Carlos Boozer,
right?
But you wouldn't see Jerry Sloan, because Carlos Boozer had some bad playoff series. You remember that one against Houston? Anyway, Jerry Sloan didn't stop playing him.
Right.
Who's struggling in the playoffs right now? I mean, if Kevin Durant came back to Houston for the next game, they're still going to play him.
Yeah. The difference, of course, being, yes, that Peterka is not a superstar. He's not that level of player. He's a role player on this team, which is why he's on the third line in the first place.
So give me a Jazz playoff Jazz equivalent. Not now Jazz, but
Joe Ingles.
I
think he's Joe Ingles.
Would you see if Joe was having a tough series? Do you think Snyder would have just taken him out of the rotation?
Well, Snyder didn't make adjustments. Captain Jack couldn't make adjustments.
No, that wasn't Captain Jack's thing.
And some teams do. Chiropractor Ty Lue in L.A. can make all the adjustments. He might bench a player. He has done some crazy things. So I don't know.
Is it a motivational tactic, or hockey players that interchangeable?
I think there's a little bit of both. And look, there are a couple of big bodies that the Mammoths have not had available to them, and that's Jack McBain and Barrett Hayton, who have not played a lot. McBain played in the first game. We haven't seen him since, I don't believe.
And Hayton hasn't played
hasn't played at all. And if you were listening to Bill Armstrong earlier today on Scotty and the Coach, he said that those guys are kind of day to day, and you just don't know when they're going to come back. Maybe one of those two could step in and take a spot there. Or, look, you can drop Peterka to the fourth line if you want to and try and get that going and move a Liam O'Brien. I don't think you're moving Liam up or Tanev up a line if you wanted to, but those kind of hustle lines, that energy that they bring is kind of what the fourth line does. You could move them up to the second line if you wanted to. Now who are you bumping off of that? If you want to keep Cooley at center and Gunther, and then you're putting Peterka up at that second line, maybe you drop Yamamoto down. I don't know. Yamamoto's been playing well in this series. To punish someone just to our point, though, of getting all four of your lines working together.
It's just interesting to me that it seems dramatic considering a player's just not playing well.
Yeah.
Like, do you allow him to work its way out, or do you just cut bait? I'm sure the GM who traded for J.J. Peterka doesn't love it.
This has not been a good trade. This trade so far has not worked out to this level. And again, it's one season, and these guys have long-term contracts, and I believe the Mammoth had just signed him to an extension when they traded for him. So he's going to be around for a while unless they trade him and move off of him, but they'd probably be taking it a loss at this point because Josh Doan has turned into a pretty good player with the Sabres. And Kesselring didn't do much this year. But, yeah, that would be a tough pill to swallow, but you got him exactly to do some of the things that he's not done.
Probably not a good sign that his team got a lot better as soon as they moved off him.
Yeah.
The Sabres got a lot better.
Yeah.
Best team in the East.
Yeah.
They were almost the worst team in the East last year.
And he still produced this year. He had 47 points. He had a positive plus-minus.
But that's what I'm saying.
There are the numbers that are in the right spot.
He's a good player. So why don't you be patient? Where's the line? Do you be patient that he comes around, or do you make a move? That's what I'm saying. It feels dramatic, and not that they're cutting the guy, but not
benching a guy.
Yeah, but
the entire overtime is a big deal. You're fighting with one hand tied behind your back because you're playing with fewer players.
So is this a case where, like, if it were Cooley going through it, he'd be given plenty of latitude to work through his whatever's going on, and this is just Peterka who's been downgraded from a value standpoint?
Yeah,
who cares?
I don't think he's that valuable. You're not going to bench. Now, guys go on cold streaks. If Gunther's not playing particularly well, you might say, let's drop him to the third line and just see if he can get some different opportunities or get more pucks his way or go against a different, defensive lineup or a different line that he's going up against, and maybe he can have success there. Peterka, conceivably, honestly, should be a second line guy. And that's where they dropped to the third already.
That's where he started the season, right?
And now, is out of the lineup entirely. So we will see what the adjustment is. Honestly, you can bring him back and you can push him up a line. I mean, sometimes you say maybe you need to put him with better players around him. Krause hasn't always been a top line guy throughout his career, so maybe you move those guys around as well. So that's where I do think some of these adjustments might get interesting for Bear. And again, admittedly, still trying to learn the sports and the ins and outs and the intricacies here. That'll be interesting to watch because look, Mitch Marner's a star. He's a 3-time All-Star. He got bumped off the first line for the second line by Tortorella in Vegas, and I don't know if that's why they won, but the top line played very well.
Made a difference.
He played better. He finally recorded a point for the first time in this series, and they got a win with very slim margins. And maybe that's where we need to back out a little bit on J.J. Peterka, is that, yes, while he got benched, which feels very egregious, we're talking about just trying to find the very slightest edge. And if Coach Bear thought Peterka's not quite giving us that edge, that's a little bit, then this is from the Mammoth's perspective, maybe you have to go with somebody different.
Be curious to see what they do. I mean, that's what we asked the Bear when he was on the show last week, talked about adjustments in the series. And he talked about it. Some are more subtle than others, but they always exist.
He has no points in this series, by the way, speaking of Peterka. And he has a negative plus-minus in all four of his appearances. So he's already not playing a ton. His time on the ice is around 13, 11 minutes. It's not huge. And he's not producing a whole lot. He also only has one block on the series, and he only has six hits. So as far as being felt, it's not out there. You're not seeing it a whole lot.
Send him down to Tucson.
Bring somebody else up. Where's Daniil Boot? I think he's with the team, actually. I don't think Daniil's going to make his playoff debut.
Hey, Vegas called a couple guys up.
Yeah, I don't think they played. But you get him in the...
No, I'm somewhat kidding about that. Are they even still playing in Tucson? There's no way.
No, I don't think so.
No, I think that's long over, right?
I don't know. Maybe the playoffs are still going on. Christian, get on that. AHL playoffs. They're probably going on. We talked to Adrian Denny on Friday, and he talked about how Gunther didn't stick with the team late because he had to go back to the playoffs his rookie season.
But that was regular season.
That was regular season, and they didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Anyways. So, no, I'm curious. And you know what? I don't think you watched last night's game if you're a Mammoth fan and felt bad about it. You didn't like the outcome, and you didn't like the start, But the fact that they battled back, I think, does show some real growth because I think more often than not, they've been on the opposite end of that, or when they've been on, the beginning of a bad game, they just never bounced back. They never showed up. They certainly showed up last night. They just didn't play to their best.
All right, stay tuned. We're going to talk a little fallout from the NFL draft coming up right around the corner. We'll switch gears and talk a little bit of football. Stay tuned. It's Jake and Ben on a Tuesday, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson. Now, every day from 2 to 6 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is Nickelback?
This is Photograph by Nickelback, not the photograph
by Def Leppard.
That Diana Rossini included on her Turnin' the Page to My Paramore Manstress for Mike Vrabel playlist that she made on Spotify that was still public as of yesterday.
Real quick before we jump into this sound, Ben, have you ever been evicted?
No. Thankfully, no.
I haven't either. Christian?
Not yet.
I've moved out of a lot of places. I've moved a ton of times in my life. Way too many.
But never been evicted
never been kicked out.
Never been evicted by the cops?
No.
A Massachusetts woman was being evicted, and the cops were there. You know what she did? Unleashed a swarm of bees on them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, always the right answer. Bees.
Yeah, she's just apparently a bee person.
When in doubt.
And said, all right, you want to evict me? Well, I'm going to let loose all these bees.
Well, don't attack the police ever. And, bees or otherwise. But interesting.
Rory Susan Woods was found guilty on 4 counts of simple assault and battery, along with 2 counts of reckless assault tied to the incident. Several deputies and sheriff's staff suffered numerous stings, including one who was stung in the face and head.
Oh.
One employee was taken to the hospital. The incident also resulted in the deaths of thousands of bees. She was sentenced.
That's the real crime.
She was sentenced to 6 months in jail.
Yeah. The bees, you got to save the bees. Hope you've got your pollinators out trying to get the bees back. But yeah, don't attack the police.
Gal, I got to tell you, it might have been satisfying to unleash a swarm of bees on people trying to evict you, even if they are police officers, but it can't be worth 6 months in jail, no?
Not even close.
I mean, I guess she'll have a roof over her head for 6 months.
It's funny. But no, that's a horrendous idea.
I'm going to start unleashing swarms of bees on people.
You ever see the movie Candyman, the horror movie?
No.
Candyman. You say it in the mirror and he shows up behind you and kills you in the projects in Chicago. Tony Todd, rest in peace, died last year. He plays Candyman and he has bees all over his face and they're real bees. He negotiated into his contract for every bee sting he gets, he got $1,000.
So he's actually cheering for bee stings.
He wanted stings.
Wow.
So he would probably irritate them to get the stings. How many stings are you willing to take for $1,000 each?
I've never even thought about it.
Like at some point they kill you, right? We've seen my girl wear his glasses. He can't see without his glasses.
He might have
And where is his glasses? He can't see without his glasses.
Maybe he was just allergic.
He was particularly allergic. That's like his whole thing, right? He's got a bad immune system.
Yeah. Well,
Tony
like
Todd,
if you're
Candyman, he's great.
If you're allergic, like one sting can kill you.
Sure, but I'm not, and you're not, I don't think.
So, yeah, I don't think, 5 or 10 stings is going to kill me.
Christian, give me a sting number. How many stings you taking?
At my producer salary. Dude, boy, let me tell you.
That's a lot of stings.
I'd take 20 stings for 20 grand.
Oh, I'm talking 200 or 300 stings, bare minimum.
No, that would kill you.
You think 300 bee stings kills you?
Yes.
How many bee stings will kill you? Let me look this up.
I'd probably put the max at 20.
For an average non-allergic adult, this is amazing news for us. We're all in great shape. For an average non-allergic adult, approximately 1,000 to 1,500 bee stings become fatal. So you're talking a mill. You're talking a cool mill before you're dying from bee stings. I'm taking 800 bee stings for 800 grand.
What's the
paying off the house? Setting
the
up an education fund?
What's the fallout though?
A little puffiness.
The recovery where they're pulling out the stingers and stuff sounds
$800,000.
I don't know. Do I need it that bad?
Christian, does it change your perspective?
I can't take pain, man.
No, you can't take a bee sting?
I could take 1 or 20. I don't know if I can do 800.
I think after the first 300, it doesn't hurt that bad anymore.
I'd probably rather.
And then the money looks so good stacking up in front of you.
I'd probably rather get stung by a bee than a jellyfish. You ever gotten stung
I've
by
not. I've never been stung by a jellyfish. And the way they fix it, right? Don't they?
Yeah, I don't know. That's an old wives' tale. Honestly,
They don't do that with bee stings.
I've been stung by a jellyfish in the face. I've had jellyfish wrapped around threaded through my life jacket, just giving me welts. It's pretty awful. If you do get stung by a jellyfish, don't do that. Believe it or not, meat tenderizer is your jam. Okay. It also works on bee stings, by the way.
Oh, okay. Good to know.
But just that you buy it at a store, you wouldn't think like a meat tenderizing, you know what I'm talking about? That like powder works like
not the hammer.
Not the hammer. No, you don't hammer your bee sting. You put
the feel better. Hold still.
the shake. You shake the meat tenderizer on there.
When was the last time you got stung by a bee? It's been a while, yeah.
Oh, I haven't been stung by a bee in a long time.
Years. Krysten, you?
I don't know if I. Yeah. The one summer I worked as a lifeguard. Yeah.
You're never going back. Not for $1,000.
I'd think about it.
Yeah, 300 grand for a couple of bee stings. 300, not a couple, but okay. I'm sorry.
Would you rather have a bee sting or a mosquito bite?
Mosquito bite. Yeah, no question. Now the itch of the mosquito bite stinks.
That's the point of the would you rather.
But
I'm not talking about
by 1,000 mosquitoes.
I know.
I've probably been stung by 4 bees. In my life.
The bee sting is immediate, then it kind of goes away. Mm-hmm. You've got a little sore or whatever.
Yeah, certainly the pinch is for real.
But a mosquito bite, I'm scratching that thing for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, but there is some relief in scratching a mosquito bite.
There
that you
is
do not get from a bee.
It makes it way worse.
Yeah, it makes it worse, but it feels good while you're doing it.
All right, let's play this sound.
The best stuff at 5 o'clock.
We've talked some NFL draft specifically about the locals that were drafted, but what about the locals that were impacted?
Yeah.
And I actually feel bad for this particular local, but let's set it up with the sound. Here is Adam Schefter, ESPN's NFL insider. Lord knows what he's doing for information.
Getting stung by bees.
I probably takes a different tack than Diana, but he gets to the bottom of it. Here's Adam talking about Tyler Algier, the newest Arizona Cardinal.
My draft loser, if you will call him that, would be the Cardinals running back, Tyler Algier. Yeah. Tyler Algier was in Atlanta and wanted a larger role and left Atlanta in free agency to go to Arizona, which paid him $7 million for the upcoming season. He thought he was going to be the lead back there in Arizona, or at least get more work than he got in Atlanta. And he goes to Arizona, which he did not expect at the time would be the team that ultimately would pick Notre Dame running back Jeremiah Love at number 3. But that's exactly what happens on the first night of the draft. The Cardinals coaches loved Jeremiah Love. The Cardinals owner, we believe, loved Jeremiah Love. This is an organization that needed a little bit of pizzazz, and they went ahead and took him, I think, to the surprise and disappointment of Tyler Algier, who chose that spot because he thought he would have a bigger opportunity that now, of course, will be shrinking, much as it did in Atlanta, behind Bijan Robinson. He would be my draft loser.
Poor Tyler Algier. Don't call him a loser.
He's not a loser.
It's not his fault, Adam.
Adam, you're the loser.
I agree. The sad part was, though, isn't this exactly what happened to him in Atlanta? Not just that he has a reserve role, but remember, Tyler Algier came into the league in 2022 from BYU. Mm-hmm. Do you remember how many yards he had his rookie year?
He broke 1,000, right?
1,035.
Yeah, he was a 7th round draft pick. He had 1,000 yards.
A great rookie season. Do you remember who Atlanta took in the first round the very next year?
Bijan Robinson.
Bijan Robinson.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, Tyler Algier's like, yeah, I'm riding high. We're doing this thing. Oh. So now he signs with Arizona. He's thinking, yeah, I'm back. Going to rattle off that 1,000-yard season. Oh, who'd they draft?
Yeah.
Oh. That sucks for him.
It does a little.
It does a lot.
And Jeremiah Love is going to be a star. He's going to get a lot of reps. He's going to get all the reps. Not all the reps. You need multiple running backs. And Tyler Algier has shown he's not exclusively the thunder to the lightning, right? He's not just because he's a little bit bigger body. He's certainly a bigger body than what Jeremiah Love does. But he is capable of breaking off big yards and kind of being a little bit more of a workhorse. He doesn't just necessarily need to be in like specific yardage situations that you bring him out. So I guess that is unfortunate for him. But the NFL is full of two running back rooms, that have success. And I do think Tyler Algier will fit right into that. But there is no question that he is viewed as the number 2 running back and may have signed in Arizona thinking he was going to be the number 1 guy.
Man, I'd go Northern Colorado backup punter, right?
Okay. Well, that's aggressive.
That's not. Tyler thought he was going to play.
This is a funny thing because this happens a lot. This is a real conversation, and I don't want to circle back to the NBA every time. But there's a push by some people that think that the draft should happen after free agency because you go and you do free agency, and then you draft your player after who's not going to, whatever guy you draft, if you then sign somebody in free agency after that, it may negate the value of the guy you just drafted. If you sign that star after. The Jazz draft Chris Humphries and go get Carlos Boozer. You don't need Chris Humphries ever. Mm-hmm. Well, the NFL does do it the right way. They have their free agency before this. Tyler Algier does sign with the Cardinals, and then they draft Bijan Robinson overall. So honestly, my thought here is, you know who the loser is? The Cardinals general manager who spent $7 million on Tyler Algier, not needing him at that spot. Go get a cheap guy. $7 million isn't exactly, the most money. The NFL salary cap has exploded.
It's a lot for a running back.
But $7 million is a lot. Yeah, it's not that you couldn't use that anywhere. And actually, maybe the most valuable thing is just that it's a roster spot that you could have found saving some money there with a backup and then using that money elsewhere to improve your team, which, by the way, remember, they don't have a quarterback or an offensive line at all. So that's where they could really maybe use some of that money versus just saying, well, we're going to run our running backs into a brick wall.
Who did they sign?
Tyler Algier.
No, the quarterback. Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah. Yeah, they're waiting for next year. All these teams are waiting for next year to draft their quarterbacks, not Sorsby, but maybe they can sign Sorsby.
Think they're going to lose on purpose, the Cardinals?
No. They're going to lose because they don't have a quarterback or an offensive line.
Well, that's my point. Did they sign Jacoby Brissett because they were
tanking for
wanting
next year?
To lose?
I think a lot of teams are doing that. I think a lot of teams this year didn't draft a quarterback because they were going to wait for next year's class.
So when's the NFL going to do their 3-2-1 scenario?
I hope they do it soon. No, they don't do any lottery. It's best team gets the worst pick, and the worst team gets the best pick. It's pretty simple.
But they still have teams losing on purpose.
Absolutely, they do.
The Cardinals being one of them.
The Washington Commanders didn't play the quarterback from Arizona State who went to LSU.
Jaden Daniels.
They didn't play him late in the season, trying to tank. Yeah, absolutely. Teams tank all the time. Teams tank in every sport. Adam Silver's just terminally online. Reads the tweets too much. Cared too much about what Bobby Marks and Brian Windhorst had to say. Now he loves the idea of a 3-2-1 model. It's catchy.
I think more Bobby was carrying weight for Adam than Adam responding to Bobby, but
Adam might be the cat in the wall because he is like an actual cat that just gets attracted to shiny things. Just like, there's a laser pointer on the ground. Chase that around for a few hours.
No, what happens when Vladimir Lenin croaks? Who takes over? It's always interesting. Like Tom Holmoe's number 2, Brian Santiago, is now the BYU AD. It's interesting when you promote the number 2 from the previous guy. What do you get? Mm-hmm. Do you get the number 2 who's been sitting there for a decade going, I would do this differently? Uh-huh. Do you get a bootlicker? How do you know Adam Silver didn't just shine David Stern's shoes and that's the whole reason that he was David Stern's number 2?
Yeah.
There have been presidents in the past who pick weak vice presidents so they don't get outshined.
Yeah.
See, when you get, like, when Vladimir Lenin dies, do you get Trotsky or do you get Stalin?
Yeah. Steve Jobs.
And how does that go? And how do they run with it? It's a very...
Steve Jobs might be a genius. Tim Cook, I don't think so. Tim Cook's on his way out, and he's held this job for a long time, but not the same guy.
Sometimes it seems automatic to just, what do they say, continuity. Promote the number 2, you keep the continuity, and you think that David Stern did a really good job, and so Adam Silver is just going to carry the ball. And that's not always the case. In fact, often it goes badly.
Now, along those lines, and quite literally carrying the ball and going back to the number one and the number two, maybe the Cardinals just don't believe that Tyler Algier is a legit number one, and he's really well suited to be a number two, and they're going to have one of the better running back duos in the NFL. And if that's the case, that will help them whenever they do get an offensive line and a quarterback. But maybe Tyler Algier, in their eyes, is not ready to be that number one guy, which is also why the Atlanta Falcons drafted Bijan Robinson over him as well. And by the way, this is the second time in how often in the last 15 years have we seen a running back selected in the top 10? Bijan, right? Bijan was top 10, wasn't he? And Saquon, is it Zeke Elliott?
Well, Zeke Elliott was a long time ago, and Christian McCaffrey was too.
A really long time ago.
Genty last year.
Yeah, there's just not that. It's not that common. We're not seeing it a whole lot. But Tyler Algier has been in the wrong place at the wrong time, or teams really don't believe he's the number one.
I think it's probably wrong place, wrong time. Seems like that.
I don't feel bad for him making $7 million.
Like that?
Yeah, but he wants to make $10 million.
On his next deal. Yeah, he wants to get the opportunity to prove that he is a number one, and then he renegotiates for the big cash.
He had almost 100 fewer, like his top carries, his year with carries was his rookie season at 210.
Yeah.
He hasn't even sniffed that. He had 186 the next year, then all the way down to 137, and then 143 last year. I mean, he'll tell you that he's not going to get that $10 million contract getting that few carries.
He has gotten, and I would be lying if I was saying I followed the Atlanta Falcons running back situation all that closely. He did up his touchdowns to 8 last year, meaning I wonder if he's getting more goal line opportunities. Though again, I think those are all going to Jeremiah Love. You don't draft a guy number 3 overall and then forget to use him in the red zone.
I love his story. I love that BYU was so desperate for a running back because their room sucked and the rest of them were hurt. Do you remember the one guy that? Never mind. They had nobody.
Uh-huh.
Kalani Sitake at practice. Can you picture him with the megaphone?
Uh-huh. Huge hat.
Tyler, you played running back in high school, right?
Yeah.
Let's switch you on sides of the ball.
You have a new position. No, coach. I'm a really good linebacker. I might be your best linebacker.
Flip it on over.
Come on over here, son.
And then he dominates.
And he dominates, goes to the NFL, and then as a 7th-round pick, as we were talking yesterday, that's a coin toss at best to make the league.
Uh-huh.
And not only did he make it, 1,000 yards his first year.
And now he's got his pension. He's been in the league 4 years, going into his 5th,
and got $7 million.
Yeah, it's a great story.
No, I will admit I'm fully rooting for Tyler Algier.
You know,
one of the better local stories.
He owns an NFL record
for
most carries without a fumble. He's never fumbled.
Oh wow!
In the NFL,
very cool.
Man, do you remember that chase down strip that he had at BYU?
Legendary.
Who was that against? Arizona State?
Arizona State. Now he's back in Arizona.
The camera angle made that clip legendary because you could just see him arms.
Yeah.
Picture his arms as he's chasing.
Yeah, looks like the Terminator coming down the
Amazing.
street.
No quitting that guy. Stay tuned. We'll have more next. We'll wrap up the 5 o'clock hour straight ahead. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Just doing it big, you know.
Your home for the best sports radio for your afternoon drive is right here. This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Two amigos on the airways, talking sports. They got him made Jakes and also loves his tie guy. Ben's got style with his scarves. Oh my.
For the band recommendations from Jake and Ben's show today, I say reach out and get the Disco Drippers back together. They are a local favorite from years gone by. Jake may remember them. But yes, bring back the Disco Drippers. They are a party.
All right, I'll listen to it.
That's Kyle.
Shout out to Kyle on the
Lead
call.
singer of the Disco Drippers, looking for a gig.
I remember the Disco Drippers.
I do not. Did you ever go to what was it called? The Zephyr Club?
Uh-huh.
What was that called?
Yeah, the Zephyr.
You did?
Yep.
Before it was closed?
I did, and now it's still a hole in the ground. It was actually a cool building. That's a frustration. They should never have closed the Zephyr. That was like a historical site, too. You look at the bands and stuff that played the Zephyr Club.
Banksy, famous artist who's recently been unmasked, did a mural or one of his taggings, paintings, whatever, on the side of the building, and they sandblasted it off. I'm just like, That's one of my ultimate, that's probably worth $3 million if you just cut it out.
Oh,
of the
probably
wall.
more than that.
Yeah, probably more than that. And you sandblasted away $3 million. I'm talking about taking 300 or 400 bee stings for a fraction of that much money. So they won't even do that. But yeah, sandblast it off. I did, however, pick up a brick that I think Banksy touched. I don't know if it's worth anything.
Well,
or maybe it's just a loose brick.
He's just some British guy.
He's just some dude. Yeah, now it's not as cool
Now it doesn't
anymore.
even matter.
Fun. Way to ruin the fun, everybody.
I think the Egyptian had one, and I think they auctioned it off for funding. The
Yeah, it's
Egyptian
great.
Theater up
What a
there
great idea.
in Park City. And then they have one in Park City that's still behind
the
glass.
Very cool. Yeah.
I think he did a billboard in town. You saw that movie, right?
I did, yeah. I saw it up at Sundance. That's why he showed up and did all the paintings right before
I saw it at
Sundance.
Sundance too, down on Broadway. Exit Through the Gift Shop, I believe was what it was called.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant.
Really funny. Bizarre.
Well, it was a commentary on how nobody knows what they're talking about when it comes to art.
Yeah. And the whole question was, is this documentary even real? We don't know.
He just turned some bozo into an artist. And because he endorsed the bozo, everybody thought the guy was brilliant, and the guy was
insane
just
money.
And the guy was just some idiot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is a hilarious commentary.
Absolutely. Of groupthink.
But now he's just some guy.
Yeah.
Kind of ruined that.
Yeah, totally agree. Way to ruin the fun, everybody.
I mean, once it becomes public, kind of like Diana Rossini and Mike Vrabel.
Then
it just takes all the magic.
Oh, really? I think for them, it's gotten better for everybody else.
No, I'm talking about for them.
Yeah, you're right. Do you think the secret aspect of it is the fun part? Or do you think it's true love for one another?
Oh, I don't think it's true love. I think it's lust on one side and transactional on the other.
You don't think it's transactional both ways?
I think it could be.
Who do you think it was? Who do you think the lust fell for?
I think Mike probably. This isn't the first time that he's had a mistress.
Okay, I have no idea.
And I think being an NFL, I think he gave her a lot of tips. I think her career probably really benefited from this relationship. That's the transactional side.
Sure, so she got the transactional
Yeah,
aspect.
and there are other rumors of her. Look into what the old Washington, the commies GM's wife was throwing out there about old Diana.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying. I think Mike was probably more lusty.
I'll listen.
Although.
Oh, I love Mike the lover. Manstress lover? That's great.
Mike feeding, like the A.J. Brown thing. This is like feeding that into the narrative that he could be leaving Philly plays into Mike's.
Yeah.
It plays into his best interest. So maybe he had some transactional nature of it as well.
I you know what? I say the opposite. He should come out and just say, Diana broke my heart. And then he'd be the victim and we'd all feel bad
Yeah,
for
but
him.
then Carmela is gone.
Well, we
His
already know
wife.
what's happened. Carmela has already been outed, and we know that happened.
But he can't say he's in love with Diana.
You don't think he can say I love two women and I lost one of them?
I don't think so.
My heart's half full.
I don't think he can go that direction.
Huh. Well, Diana can buy him
What's
some
next?
airport jewelry or whatever to make him feel better.
Listen, it was a playlist today. It was an airport store in Salt Lake City yesterday.
Yeah.
It was a playlist today.
Story that doesn't stop giving.
Wait
Did you
to
see
see
that
what's
meme
tomorrow.
going around? Like, we know he bought a shirt or a jacket. Nobody knows what it says. There was a meme going around that says, the shirt said, "My husband cheated on me," and all I got was this stupid shirt.
Oh, it turned into because there was one, because it was light blue, someone was saying it was a Mammoth sweatshirt. Yeah.
Rough.
But no, this story, while I was a little lukewarm on it at the beginning, and you were all in.
This is my type of story.
It has continued to provide absolutely A-plus content.
Endlessly. And you know what's funny is the NFL, I'm sure, is trying to kill it. You can look into those rumors on who's reporting what, and the NFL is trying to put a lid on this, but I don't think it's possible. We like salacious news way too much. And there's way too many Easter eggs out there. They're pulling up stuff that she said or tweeted or whatever after these instances, and they're totally where she's tweeting, "Wow, what a day!" after she got photographed making out with him at a bar.
Somebody went and found her playlists on Spotify. That's
Amazing.
the depth that the internet can expose you. So this is just a good lesson for
That Nick
everybody.
Saban was 1,000% right. Got too much to lose, man.
Too much to lose.
Too much to lose.
Yep. No, I have a playlist that I made for my kids called Cool Songs I want my kids to hear, and they've never listened to it, and they never will. And that's the most embarrassing thing you'll find about me on my Spotify.
What's an example?
Let me see. I'll pull it up for you really quickly.
Sugar, Sugar by the Archies?
No, not quite. Oh, let me see if I can figure out. I know we don't have very much time here. Cool music for the kids. I'm so old and lame. Time of the Season by the Zombies. Hurdy-Gurdy Man by Donovan. Crimson and Clover by Tommy James. I'm going to give this to you, Christian. You don't know any of these
Dude,
songs
I
either.
love Crimson and Clover. That's a good spot by you. That's a great tune.
On the Road Again by Canned Heat. Do you know Canned Heat, Christian?
I know that song.
Yeah, you know
but
that song.
yeah, there's no way your kids like any of that.
No.
Not a chance. All right, stay tuned.
Blackwater by the Doobie Brothers.
That's a good
That's
song,
a
too.
song.
More next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.